Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you're a dad out there in the father's world, I hope you had a great Father's Day yesterday. If you are someone who is just trying to make the father in your life that, your dad, your grandpa, your father-in-law, your spouse, significant other, whatever, hopefully you were able to make that a special day for the dads out there. I had a great one myself. We got a fun show lined up for you, but the return of James Peterson the day after his first ever Father's Day. James is a daddy now. James Peterson, come on, fill us in.
A crazy couple of weeks, OC.
By the way, I have not shared your news with anyone.
You have not.
On the air.
Okay.
Olivia, who is obviously your sister-in-law, Olivia producing for us, she was like, I get to say, because we're family, like, baby, they had the baby's cute. We haven't released the name. We haven't done the birth. We haven't done the birth story. I wanted to leave the floor for you. Share what you like.
Okay. So I have shared on the show that the due date was end of June. Right? A few times. And Monday, or was it Tuesday earlier in the show? One of those 2 days, I had brought up, oh my gosh, he's going to be born this month. I can't believe that. And then if that was on Monday, then the next day during the show, I get a call from my wife. Now, listen, she actually called my cell. I keep the phone on silent because I chime in with you every once in a while. Don't want the ringer to go off over the microphone, right? I'm a professional, OC.
Yeah, dedicated professional.
So I got the phone on silent. My wife had her weekly checkup on Tuesday. She goes there. The doctor tells her, hey, there's some things going on. Nothing emergency or anything like that, but it was urgent enough that she said, you need to have the baby today. And so I missed 4 calls from her because the phone's on silent. She calls the studio line, OC, during the show. And I see it on the caller ID, and I'm like, what the heck? So I look over my phone. I'm like, oh, I've missed 4 calls. Answer it on the studio line. And I'm like, we got a caller here, OC. No, I knew it wasn't for the air. I answer on the studio line. She tells me what's going on, and I'm like, well, do I need to go now?
Yeah.
And she said no. She said she asked me to be at the hospital later in the afternoon. I'm like, well, so I can finish the show, finish my work day. I need to finish this show, and I need to arrange some things for the next couple weeks, right? So she's like, yeah, you're fine. Olivia is on the phone too. I'm like, can you drive her to the hospital? She's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need to do to be able to finish the day. Then I wait, because again, I'm a professional, OC. I wait till after the show's over, and I tell you and Spence at the same time. And it looked like your eyes got so big, OC, it looked like they're going to pop out of your head.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated. You've been in this with me. You've been asking about it. So I appreciated your excitement for it. But that's what Tuesday was. And then ended up having the baby around 10:30 that night.
Okay. All right.
And he's just the best, man. Like,
dude,
just a little tiny guy, under 5 pounds when he's born. I think he's about to the 5 pound mark now.
We're reporting his weight. He's 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're sticking with on the Sean O'Connell Show. The official stance of the program is that we've crossed the 5 pound threshold.
He was about there, just about an ounce lighter than that at his last pediatrician appointment earlier this week. So we're assuming with his rate of weight gain that he's over the 5 pound mark. So I like that. Officially over 5 pounds.
It's a milestone.
Yes.
Yep.
Obviously there's concerns when the baby's that small, and I've heard of even smaller babies with multiples, for example.
Yep.
And even more premature than my guy was. It was 3.5 weeks early, being a lot smaller than that and surviving just fine. But you still get concerned.
For sure.
When they're under, 7 pounds, you're like, I don't know if they're big enough to keep going here. Yeah. And he's been doing great.
Especially, this is your first kid. and there's so much unknown, right? And you're just like every little thing to be concerned about. So I applaud that you and your wife have kept a pretty level head about all of it, and here you are.
We've had our anxious moments where, looking back, we're gonna probably, especially if we were able to be blessed with at least one more child, and the experience is a lot different. We'll probably be like, man, we freaked out way too much. We've definitely had those moments, but I'd say we've been able to keep it cool as best we can, and he's just growing, man, and we're just so proud of him for fighting and growing. He avoided NICU time just barely.
It's awesome.
So I'll tell that story real quick too. So do you know the minimum weight for a child that they require that he or she gets admitted to the NICU?
I have no idea.
So I know it in grams, because that's how they measure everything in the hospital now.
Yeah.
It's about 4 pounds even.
Okay.
Which is 2,000 grams.
Okay.
His initial birth weight in grams was 2020.
All right. Okay. So he
just barely crossed that threshold.
All right. Okay.
Then he had to they had to make sure he could breathe well on his own. They did some breathing tests for a little while, and I'm sitting there watching him just struggle and fight, and he fought enough they said it's borderline, but we're going to say he passed. Okay.
All right.
So he just barely passed that test, and then you had things like, when they're that small and not have much fat storage, you have things like blood sugar and temperature.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's not going to be admitted to the NICU, but we're going to monitor him overnight, and then hopefully in 6 to 8 hours we'll be able to bring him to your room. So I got a full night's sleep.
Uh-huh.
Wife didn't, because the nurses are checking in every hour.
But
I got a full night's sleep in the hospital, which I was grateful for that first night. As soon as I wake up, she's like, get down to the NICU. And I'm like, you sure you want me to leave you? She's like, yes, go. I need pictures. I need you to tell me how our son is. I'm like, okay. And then as soon as I'm about to leave, I'm getting my shoes on, the nurses wheel him in.
Awesome.
So avoided NICU time, which by the skin of his teeth.
Uh-huh. Which he doesn't have yet.
Yes. Skin of his non-existent teeth.
Yes.
So it was cool to just see him that early on, just like fight to be here, man, and super proud of him for that. The name is Owen Jeffrey Peterson.
Okay, love it.
Jeffrey,
Owen's a great name. Jeffrey is family name?
They're both family names. Owen's wife's great-grandfather's name. So his great-great-grandfather, he passed like a year before my wife was born. Okay. So he hasn't been with us for a long time. Jeffrey's my dad's name. Who passed a couple years ago. So it really cool to be able to honor a couple of ancestors that way.
It is the stuff of life, James Peterson. I'm so happy for you guys. And look, that's as special a Father's Day as you could have. You're a newly minted father. You've named your son for other fathers, including your own, in the family, and you got to experience your first Father's Day.
Yeah, it was awesome. Didn't expect, I was like, first official Father's Day will be next year. That's what I was thinking the whole time. Because he's not due till the end of the month, and everything was tracking fine up until last Tuesday. We're like,
I'm assuming your wife gave you the whole breakfast in bed, sleep all day treatment.
Yeah, she let me sleep, and I told you off air.
Yeah,
I'm like, is this allowed? I have a newborn, I'm not allowed to sleep. So I was really, really grateful for that. She's also the kind of person that she's very independent, wants to know that she wants to test herself, so that she knows she can do it. Because I have to go back to work. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm also like, I'll go without sleep.
Is this a trap? Am I allowed?
Yeah.
Am I actually allowed to take advantage?
Feels wrong to sleep. Okay.
Well, congrats to you guys. 877-353-0700 if you want to send in your positive thoughts and prayers and congratulations to the Peterson family, because that is as good as it gets, man. Welcoming a child into this world is the reason we are all here. What a special, special thing. I'm glad it went as smoothly as it could have, given the premature status.
Let me thank everyone here at the station too, here publicly, for holding it down. And I was pretty clear with you guys. I know that people want to be like, oh, what can we do kind of thing, and you start to overthink it a little bit because you want to be there for your boss, you want to be there for your friend. But I just was like, you guys just got to keep doing. Sean, you got to keep posting a great show. Spence, same thing. Producers, keep booking the show great. Do your regular thing, and we'll be fine. That's what you guys did. So I appreciate you guys holding it down.
We kept hosting shows.
Yeah, giving me the peace of mind that, hey, things are running without me so that I could focus on my little guy.
Whether the shows were great or not is up to you, the listener, to decide. But awesome.
Text us if you think the shows were great.
Text us your grievances with what happened on the show while James was gone and the inmates were running the asylum over here. All right, so that's a wonderful thing. Glad we got the birth story of young Owen Jeffrey Peterson. Okay, now let's talk about 75 days till Utah football season begins. 9 o'clock kickoff on Fox against UCLA. That to look forward to. NBA Finals to talk about. That series has gotten very, very intriguing, as have the NHL Finals. Brian Hayward's going to join us to talk about that. 1 o'clock. Brogan Houston in about 20 minutes as well to talk a little Utah Mammoths and what's going on. Scott Mitchell is going to join us at noon. And some summertime radio. We're playing this game, James, and it's been hard. We've only had one round of it so far, and already people have expressed their angst and the difficulty in sometimes making the harsh decision when we're talking Utah football greats. So what we're doing is we're playing start, bench, cut on Utah football greats. Now, at certain positions, as I told you on Friday, we're going to do this where we separate the eras of Utah football. There will be the pre-Power 5 era and then the Pac-12 and Big 12 era, because the positional talent pool has changed a little bit, and the accomplishments and the way that you measure those accomplishments, I think, have to be altered somewhat when you're talking about the big leap forward that Utah took. So at some positions, we will probably have start, bench, cut, like 2 rounds per position. But right now, we started with the specialists. I wanted to ease our way into this thing. So punters last week, Hackett, Wisnowski, Louis Sakota. And Louis, of course, because he was such a versatile, he was such a dual threat, an incredible All-American caliber player in those 2 phases of special teams. Louis is also on the start bench cut for kickers. Now we're talking about your kicker. We're talking about your field goal, extra point, and I guess kickoffs. I don't know how many people care about the performance on kickoffs, although in recent years it has become more of a thing because there were a lot of guys that it was just automatic. You weren't going to get a return against you. You didn't have to worry about kick coverage nearly as much. In this case, Matt Gay, Andy Phillips, Louis Sakota. Start, bench, cut.
Ooh.
877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. Let me know how you're making that decision. Start, bench, cut, your favorite Utah kickers. Andy Phillips, Matt Gay, Louis Sakota. And the real hard thing here, James, is they're all great.
Yes.
You want all of them, but you got to cut one. And even benching one of those guys is a tough thing to do.
Well, you only get 1 kicker per team, right? So that, of course, you got to cut 2, right? No.
Well, you got to have the backup.
Oh, you got to have backup. Okay. You asking for mine right off here?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna,
I think I'm ready to do it.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
I will say, the field goals made record is not real close.
Oh.
Andy Phillips, 84 field goals for Utah football over the course of 4 years. Louis Sakota, 57 field goals made over the course of 4 years. Matt Gay, 56 field goals made.
Wow, I'm surprised.
2 seasons.
2 seasons.
2
I was going to say
seasons.
I'm surprised his is that low, but he didn't play 4 years at Utah.
He played 2 seasons for the University of Utah, and he almost matched Louis Sakota, King Louis, in 4 years.
And I think distance-wise, he probably outdistanced those other 2 guys pretty good too, right? Like that long field goal was money for him in college. So I think that's why I'm starting Matt Gay.
Okay.
And maybe it's recency bias. Maybe it's because I didn't follow, not growing up Utah fan, didn't follow it closely enough during the Louis Sakota era, definitely, and less than the Matt Gay era with Andy Phillips. So that's the one I'm most familiar with too.
Okay.
But he was on pace to get over 100 field goals made if he played 4 years. And the distance he made 50-yard field goals look easy in college in those 2 years. So that's why I probably start him, and then I probably bench Andy Phillips because Louis Sakota, as you said, King Louis, also the most field goals made, part of better. I suppose the team that he's on, like the MVP award, maybe that should factor in that Louis Sakota was on some better teams than Andy Phillips' teams were. So probably bench King Louis, cut Andy Phillips, start Matt Gay.
So this one's interesting because, especially, I think start Matt Gay is the right choice here. He holds the Utah record for single season field goals made. He's actually the top two seasons there. Single game record. He's the guy, like you said, who is very reliable from distance. What changes the calculus, though, and I think has to be brought into consideration, is the fact that, like, Louis Sakota was on a team that was better offensively relative to its competition. You didn't have to rely on King Louis as much as you had to rely on Andy Phillips necessarily. And you could make the same case with Matt Gay.
Or even Matt Gay, because those offenses, until 2019, Matt Gay's second year, when Andy Ludwig came back, Utah's offense under Tyler Huntley, by points per game and stuff, was not that great.
So the Louis Sakota question is, like, he was absolute money, right? Louis' numbers would have been different if he played on if he played on a team that had an offense like the Matt Gay teams or like the Andy Phillips teams, because Louis was money. You didn't ask him as often. Like, you scored more touchdowns. Brian Johnson was your quarterback. You had David Reed. You had Eddie Wide. You had Matt Asiata. You had, like, all these unbelievable players, right? Like, that was a more proficient, and especially because you were not yet playing week in and week out. You were not yet playing Pac-12 level talent. You weren't playing Power 5 level talent. So Utah was a dominant force in those years. And those were really good Mountain West Conference years. BYU was good. TCU was good, obviously. Like, it was a very, if you want to call it a mid-major, you want to call it a group of five, whatever you want to call it, it was probably as good in those couple of years, as good of a mid-major conference as has ever existed in college football.
Certainly the sixth best conference in college football, if not sometimes the fifth best.
I mean, the year, like, because the Big East was the thing back then, and I
guess
stunk.
Maybe supposedly seventh, because you had six major conferences back then. I forget about the Big East.
But you were better than them. Like, you were better than the Big East. And there were probably times that the ACC wasn't giving you a lot. Anyway.
So much so that the Big East took TCU initially.
That's right.
Like, they took one of those teams from the Mountain West that was so good in those last couple of years, yeah.
So that's something to think about when you're making your start, bench, cut decision. 1624 says start Phillips, bench Sakota, cut Gay. You're cutting Matt Gay?
Oh, man.
The Lou Groza Award winner, you're cutting that guy?
He says, I'm just not a soccer fan. I don't need a soccer player kicking for me.
Longevity, I get it, right? Okay, 6641. Start Matt Gay, bench Andy Phillips, cut Louis. Louis getting cut in some of these.
Interesting.
The same way last week, there were people cutting Tom Hackett.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, what are you doing cutting Tom Hackett?
They're saying he can't hack it.
And you know, there are folks that want to keep Louis because of positional versatility, but we're building the all-time great Utah football team.
Yeah, you don't need Louis to punt, too.
You don't need like Louis
He's
is
just going to be a place kicker.
Louis is your third-string punter at best, okay?
He's your emergency punter.
And in this case, I mean, Louis was great at both positions. He was All-American at both positions.
That's
that
wild.
level. And yet, because of the other guys that have come through the program. And we're just talking about specialists right now, James. You know how hairy this is going to get when we get into defensive backs, running backs, quarterbacks. You know how ugly this is going to get? It's going to be a bloodbath.
Inevitably, when you cut Sly, we're going to have to get him on the show to air his grievance when we get to linebackers.
Hey, I know Sly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to screenshot the phone numbers of everyone who cut Sly, and I'm going to send them to Sly.
Yes.
And I'm going to let Sly handle that himself. All right? When people are like, yeah, we're going to – because remember, Stevenson Sylvester was pre-Pac-12 era linebacker. And so that's a different calculation. That is a position I'm separating the two, the Power 5 and the pre-Power 5.
See, I knew you were thinking of cutting him already. Now I know for sure, just based on how you said that. Well, that's your tease, though. We're not on linebackers today.
Not on linebackers today. Bill actually came on the show on Friday, and he was like, wait, are you going to do this every day? And I was like, well, we'll run out of positions too fast if we do it every single day.
Maybe like 2-3 times a week.
So he's like, oh, maybe like a Monday, Friday thing. I was like, Bill's producing the show for me. I like that. So this week,
Bill was anxious to give his take every Friday. That's what that was.
And look, we're going to get Bill's take every Friday. And he was, I was like, wait, you're cutting. I think he ended up cutting Hackett. And I was like, man. You're cutting Hackett?
Cutting his former broadcast partner.
Anyway, so punters was Sakota, Wisnowski, Hackett. Kickers, Phillips, Matt Gay, Andy Phillips, not Joe Phillips, who's also in the record books. Andy Phillips, Matt Gay, and again, Louis Sakota. Start. You got to start one, bench one, cut one.
Who did you cut out of the punters?
I cut Louis.
You cut Louis. Okay.
Yeah. I started Hackett. I benched Wisnowski. Wow. And I cut Louis.
See, those two are so tough to choose between Tom Hackett and Mitch Wisnowski as your starter.
And by the way,
is wild.
I know that Mitch has gone on to great success in the NFL, and Tom hardly even got a shot, which is insane to me. But Tom Hackett was a back-to-back best punter in the country.
This is what they did while at Utah. We're not factoring in their NFL success,
which is going to be hard for people as we play this game with other positions.
Absolutely. Steve Smith is going to be started and going to be a starter once we get to receivers. It's like, well, he was kind of a return man only at Utah,
and we're gonna have those conversations because like your production as a Ute and what you were able to do, and I don't want it to just be a numbers equation because your significance to the team and how good that team was. If you were one of the best players on a really good Utah team, like you're probably more deserving of the start or at least the bench than somebody who was like a really good player on a bad Utah team. Because this is about program significance here. Start, bench, cut. We went punter, now we're going kicker, and we're going to gradually work our way into the more complicated positions.
Oh, that's King Louis calling in, wondering why I cut him. No, sorry. No.
Louis Sakota.
If you want to call in Louis Sakota, 877-353-0700, we'd love to hear from you.
At Real OC Sports as well, if you want to tweet your start, bench, cut decisions. On Twitter, Braden Peterson says, start Matt Gay, bench Louis Sakota, cut Andy Phillips.
Did you see the text? The guy, one of our texters who was advocating for keeping Louis?
Yes, because of the injury problems.
Need positional versatility, man, because of the injury problems.
Hey, here's what we're not going to do. We are not going to put that negative energy into the world on the program. As the football season approaches, I have to break this habit. I have a really bad habit that whenever I'm talking about, well, if he stays healthy, this guy's going to be incredible if he stays healthy. I'm putting bad juju out into the world, even like mentioning the possibility that guy could get injured. I have to break myself of that habit.
We're assuming health on the Sean O'Connell show.
I want to, yes, that's a good way to put it. We are going to assume health. even though we haven't had a reason in the last 2 seasons to assume health. We are going to assume health. We are going to break the cycle of trauma for Utah fans.
Absolutely. That's what we're about here, breaking cycles of trauma on the Sean O'Connell Show.
Yes.
And at ESPN 792.1 FM.
Yes. Boldroid. That's probably B Oldroid, but Boldroid is how I'm going to say it.
Boldroid.
Start King Louis, bench Matt Gay, cut Andy Phillips. Cheech is also cutting Phillips, benching Louis and starting Gay, though. Man, this is tough. Kickers is a tough one. And Andy Phillips also, like, are you factoring in how much of a fan favorite each of these individuals was? Like, how often we heard from them in interviews and all that kind of stuff. That was another reason why I couldn't believe people were cutting Tom Hackett.
He still is such an amazing personality in anything that he's doing. It's the reason why he made had a nice radio career. It's because of just the personality he had and did a good job on the broadcast for a little bit.
He's the only Ute that made the All-Century Pac-12 team.
Yeah, he's got to be. You got to at least have him on the team.
Admittedly, he was, the Utes had not been in the Pac-12 very long when they made that team. But who else would have made the team?
Yeah,
like
I suppose Wisnowski.
Like
if there's a number of people out there that probably thought Mitch Wish was better than him. I suppose that, but
I think if you took all the Utah Pac-12 players, because like Devin Lloyd was not eligible to be named to that thing because when they put the team together, he was not.
Yeah,
he hadn't been an All-American or whatever. Like who else? I mean, Tom Hackett deserved a spot on that team because he was the best punter in the land for 2 years straight. Who else? Take away the timing of it. We're talking all the Utah players ever. Who else would have made the All Pac-12 Century team? I mean, you have no shot of getting a receiver on there. Guys like Garrett Bowles, who are only with your program for 1 year, are going to be eliminated because there's not enough sample size, there's not enough longevity. Like, I guess somebody like a Bradley Anai could have been given a shot. A Devin Lloyd was an All-American, but look at how many All-American linebackers. And we're talking like Butkus Award winners the Pac-12 has produced. Tom Hackett, people were cutting the guy in start bench cut, James. He was sitting next to John Elway at the dang ceremony. Anyway.
Elway's starting him.
Elway's starting Tom Hackett. And he's benching probably everyone else.
Of course, he didn't want him on the Broncos, so maybe not. I don't know.
Why'd you got to bring that up?
I'm sorry. Sorry, I shouldn't just think out loud sometimes, OC. I'm working on that.
Why are you doing that? All right. We got to take a quick one here. Brogan Houston's going to join us on the other side. We'll talk a little hockey as the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Stanley Cup final continues tomorrow night. And, we'll talk about the Utah Mammoth with the draft approaching. Also, are they going to make moves in free agency, which is going to be here before we know it? Sean O'Connell Show, Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 792.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
Moments ago, Connor McDavid with his first of the series, his 7th point of the series, and his 150th career Stanley Cup playoff point, bringing the Oilers back within 2, and this building is alive again. And Panthers go to work, and Reinhart scores from the left circle. He beats Pickard short side, and there's an answer from the defending champs, who once again go up by 3. It's 4-1.
Panthers taking a 3-2 lead. John Eiler's on that call. Sound courtesy of Sports USA. We have Game 6 for you on your home of the Stanley Cup Finals, ESPN 792 FM, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Brogan Houston stops by to talk a little NHL hockey, a little Utah Mammoth. Brogan, welcome to the show again. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back.
All right. I want to talk about this opinion piece you wrote about why the Utah Mammoth should not try to get Sam Bennett in free agency. There's been a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo. He's got relationships in Salt Lake City. Excuse me. He's been incredible in this Stanley Cup final. So why no Sam Bennett to Salt Lake City for you?
Yeah, you know what? Sam Bennett is the type of player that any GM would love to have. And for that reason, he's going to get way overpaid this summer. Now, I don't know about other leagues, but in the NHL, your wage, your salary is way more important than a lot of other things that you contribute. So, if you take up X percentage of the cap, you have to contribute more than that in whether it's statistics or X factor, or like there's something that you got to bring. And just the amount of teams that are in on Sam Bennett this year, he's just going to get overpaid if he hits the free agency market on July 1st here. And he's not really the type of player that would help Utah to get to the next level yet. So, if Utah were already, a second or third round playoff team, and they wanted to kind of push themselves over the brink to get to the Stanley Cup, I'd say absolutely sign Sam Bennett. That's who you need. He's a playoff performer. He's leading the playoffs in goals right now. He's an absolute machine. Sign him. But because Utah is not close to the Stanley Cup, they're probably still a good, 3 to 5 years away at the very least. I think that if they were to sign Sam Bennett, they would use up a lot of their cap space for something that won't really pay the dividends now and will hurt them when they actually are ready for the Cup, because, then he's old and slow and he's, past his best years, but he's still making that major cap hit.
There's always a discussion we have with players like this, more in the NBA than in like the NFL or something, but your role on a team is often a huge part of why you're successful or not. Now, we've watched, and he's been absolutely great in these Stanley Cup playoffs. In this final series, he's been incredible. But you pointed this out in your piece in the Des News, the results when he was expected to be the man, right? Like the leader, the guy, the number one skater on the ice in Calgary, it didn't work out for them. Like how much of his success in Florida you think is predicated on the idea that he's surrounded with so much great talent and they don't necessarily ask him to be the LeBron James of that team. They don't ask him to be like the captain in the same way that Calgary was expecting him to.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the other half of it, is that, when he's a second line player, then he's facing the other team's second defense pairing and the other team's second best, defensive forwards and whatnot. And that's what he is in Florida. He kind of has a lot more wiggle room. Like, he can make a mistake and not necessarily pay for it right there. There's a lot more open ice for him to go for, because he's not playing against the top defensive forwards in the world. And if he were on Utah, he would be the first line center. And, then all of a sudden he's going up against the Alex Barkovs and the Sam Reinharts and, the really elite defensive forwards like that. And same thing with the defenseman. He's going up against the Quinn Hugheses and the Cale Makars. And he couldn't do that in Calgary. When he was in Calgary, they had him in that role for a while. He just never panned out. And then they traded him for a bag of pucks. Like there was no real good return on that trade. And now all of a sudden he's probably going to be the playoff MVP. He's a player that fits in a specific system, and that's not what Utah is at this time in their rebuild.
Rogan Houston, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We're talking Utah Mammoth right now. We're going to get into some Stanley Cup final. The series is now 3-2 for the Panthers, which means that tomorrow night the Cup will be in the building. They could potentially close it out. We will get there. I love this line about Bennett. There are players who get you to the playoffs. There are others who get you through them. And you mentioned that Bennett is the latter. So a guy that when he's on your team, he helps you get through the playoffs. But right now, the Mammoth need guys that are going to get them to the playoffs. They need guys that are going to get them over that hump. And presumably, because this is the way it seems to work out in the NHL, and you and I have talked about this before, you probably got to make like 3 playoff runs concurrently, or consecutively, I should say, before you end up actually challenging for a cup. So you need someone who's going to get you there and then get you back there and then get you back there again. And then maybe third or fourth time is when you're going to make a deep run.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And if you look at teams that have prolonged periods of success, the teams that win the Stanley Cup, Florida is a great example. So is Edmonton. These teams, they're drafting in the first, second, third kind of range overall. 10 years ago, and then now, 10 years later, they're finally competing for the Stanley Cup. Now, Utah, they're picking fourth this year. That, that's probably not a great indication just because they moved up in the lottery 10 spots. But they're only a couple of years out from when they drafted Logan Cooley third overall, and they had a few other, picks in that range. And so, if you think about it, 10 years from when they drafted Logan Cooley, that's when they're supposed to be competing for the Cup. And maybe Utah's a little accelerated just because of how many prospects and picks they have, and that's maybe a little optimistic even, but, that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at here. So, you need guys that can kind of get you into the playoffs, teach these young guys how to play playoff hockey. It's different. I know it doesn't seem like it maybe, from the outside perspective, but it really is a different game in the playoffs. And so, it's going to take some trial and error. Don't expect them to bring that big silver shiny thing to Utah in the next couple of years here. It's going to take a while. And so, they need guys to come in, teach the young guys, give them that experience, help them learn how to win. And then eventually, think 10 years from now, they might be in a spot to, have Logan Cooley be a first-line center that can hoist that Stanley Cup.
All right, let's get to the Stanley Cup final. Panthers are up 3-2. How much significance is there for you that when the Panthers are winning these games, I guess with the exception of Game 2, it's convincing. They've dominated their other 2 wins, and for the Oilers, it's been we need overtime. Now that's fun. That's wonderful for me as a fan, as someone watching, as an observer with no real horse in the race, at least in this Stanley Cup final series. But how significant is it that the Panthers have been more dominant in their wins, and the Oilers have kind of had to rely on overtime heroics to get theirs?
Yeah, no, it shows how deep these Panthers are. Like, they are by far the best team in hockey. There's nobody else that can contend. They walked through the entire playoffs, I guess, with the exception of Toronto. That's the only one that went to 7 games so far for the Panthers. But they are the best team in hockey. They're really showing that, and they're playing a really good shutdown game. Now, their coach, Paul Maurice, he talked about how big his defensemen are and how meaningful that is to have big, long defensemen. And the way that he characterized it was he was talking about Nico Mikkola and Seth Jones, 2 of his bigger defensemen, and he said they can hold hands in the middle of the ice and touch the 2 ends of the board. Obviously he's exaggerating quite a bit, but that's the type of space that these guys take up, and teams are trying to copy that now. And so you see some of these guys going in free agency, some of these big defensemen, and they're going to get some big contracts coming up here because it's a copycat league, and everybody wants to replicate the success of those successful teams. And so I think that's a big part of it. And then also I just think depth-wise, Edmonton is rolling out some of these less experienced D or less elite defensemen, I guess. And Florida really, they don't have a weak player from top to bottom. I think that's a big difference. And then obviously, if you talk about goaltending, Florida has one of the best goaltenders in the entire world, and Edmonton, to put it simply, does not. Most of Edmonton's 2 goalies would be backup goalies on most NHL teams, to put it kind of simply. And so I think that's another big factor in this.
There's that adage in football, if you have two quarterbacks, it means you don't have one. And that's kind of what has happened for the Oilers in this, is that they've had to go bounce back and forth. And look, credit to the coach, credit to everyone else on that team for managing it pretty well and making this the series that it is, despite having to swap back and forth. We did see that a little bit with the Mammoth in the regular season. Different equation, obviously, than playoff hockey, and especially a Stanley Cup final. But I guess it highlights for me how important it is that it seems like you've settled on veggie now. Like, yeah, you need depth. You need to have a really good backup, and there's no reason for me to believe that Ingram can't figure it out and make it an interesting competition even. But when you don't have I guess, a good sense of who's even going to be the guy starting, or whether he's going to get pulled after a period or two periods. I just can't imagine the Mammoth having to do that while developing the young talent.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There are some teams that make it work with the two goalies. Like, Boston a couple of years ago, that was a perfect example of those two goalies. They rotated every other game. It was scheduled out. You're going to play this game. You're going to play that game. Doesn't matter how you did the previous game. That's just how it's going to be. And it really worked for them, but it usually doesn't turn out as a Stanley Cup winning team because it's hard to do that in the playoffs. And I wouldn't say Edmonton's quite on a rotation like that. They do have a number one and they do have a number two, but the big problem there is that they haven't gone and gotten their big goalie. Like, they haven't gotten a star goalie whatsoever. So Stuart Skinner, yeah, he's their number one goalie, but if you put him on most other teams in the league, he's just a backup goalie. And, I think that's an identity thing. They think that he's a lot better than he actually is. And he's just, he does have good games. He showed that in the Vegas series, but he's not consistent enough to play in the Stanley Cup final and be solid enough there. And so I think that's something that, teams like Utah need to really be honest with themselves about. Is Karel Vejmelka your number one goalie, and is he somebody that could take you deep in the playoffs? Right now, the answer looks like yes, but it's a pretty small sample size. He had half of the season that was exceptional. And so, this coming season will be very telling for him to see where he actually fits in this lineup.
What does Connor McDavid need to do if the Oilers are going to win this Stanley Cup? I mean, he's been incredible, but mostly in a support and an assist role. He's only scored the one goal. What does he need to do if they're going to overcome Florida?
Yeah, it's hard to ask anything more of Connor McDavid than what he's already doing. But, like you said, he's only got the one goal. He does have, I think it's 6 assists, something like that. So he still is producing offensively. He is still contributing. But if you look at that game where Edmonton came back from 3-0, I think it was game 4, maybe. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But they came back from 3-0, made it 4-3 before the end of regulation, and then won 5-4 in overtime. And McDavid and Draisaitl, neither of them scored any of those goals. So it's not that they're not contributing, but it's probably a good thing for Edmonton that they don't need to rely solely on those two guys anymore. For a long time, that's what it was 97 and 29. They were the only ones producing, and the team kind of suffered because of it. And so I don't think it's a question of McDavid needs to do more. I think it's a question of everybody else needs to kind of remember their roles and not shy away from the big moments and that kind of thing. And it's the Stanley Cup is a hard trophy to win if you only have one or two guys that are going. You got to get the whole team going. And then the whole team gets to touch the trophy once it's won.
Brogan, great stuff as always. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Brogan Houston, Utah Mammoth insider, NHL insider over at Des News, a member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, and friend of the program. He's always given us great stuff. All right, we'll take a quick one here. When we come back, the most dad U.S. Open victory perhaps ever. And, of course, on a Father's Day. Sean O'Connell Show, Utah's #1 sports talk, the ESPN 700. All right. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on a Monday. We talked Oakmont. We talked about the U.S. Open and how wild and woolly it was on Friday. We had Paul Pugmire on, and he said Paul he's a golf savant. He said, I tell you what, you throw anyone in the field the opportunity to tell them that on Sunday they're going to be even par, these golfers are going to take it. And this is when there were guys, sitting at -4, -3. There was a little bit of a log jam at 2 under. And I was like, wow, really? We're going to get to par. And then what happened? The eventual winner, J.J. Spaun, who was the leader on Friday when we spoke to Paul, he was the only guy that finished under par. So Paul was dead on.
See, it's crazy because Sam Burns started the day 4 under in the final round. I mean, that just tells you how tough of a course Oakmont is and how good the USGA is making it. Is it making those courses just the hardest in the world?
So Spaun hits birdie on 17, and then we all saw the highlight of the 64.5-foot birdie putt on 18. I put it out on Twitter. I said, all right, make this a football thing. This is like scoring a touchdown on 4th and goal from the what? And, of course, I got the people correcting me and saying, like, well, actually, it was really 3rd and goal from the whatever. Because if he had missed that, he could have taken an approach putt and then hit like the 10-footer. Would not have been nearly the cool highlight.
Good point. It is more like a 3rd down because he had a stroke to play with. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Right. But unbelievable putt, right? Great. They got great angles on it. His reaction, his caddy's reaction, trying to rush the umbrella over because it was a wet day. Awesome, right?
By the way, did you know that at least one of those holes was as close to the freeway as it was? I'm watching the broadcast and I'm like, that freeway is basically on the fairway. That's I've never seen that in one of these championship golf courses that they're that close to a road.
I mean, they're like Salt Lake Country Club is right there next to the freeway.
Good point. Sorry, total tangent there. It stood out to me as I was watching yesterday.
Paul told us a great story about the designer of the golf course.
I heard this. I tuned in for a little bit, heard this story. It blew me away.
Just the coolest thing ever. If you did not hear that show, you can actually find it in the on-demand section at ESPN700sports.com. You can download the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts. We are everywhere. And it's better to hear Paul tell the story than for me to try to paraphrase it. But essentially, it was like the dying wish of this billionaire steel magnate who thought that it was going to be like his lasting legacy. He was going to design this golf course because he thought he was on his way out of this world. And, well, we got Oakmont out of it, which is one of the toughest courses.
Only course the guy ever made, too.
Another insane thing. So go listen to Paul tell the full story because he does a much better job than we do of it. But look, I don't love watching golf. I don't love playing golf. I don't love talking golf. This, though, is the coolest, and it's poetic in so many ways. J.J. Spawn's been kind of like that battler, right? He's a guy who's a really good player. It's been, he hasn't really broken through until now with the major win. And the fact that he did it on Father's Day and then gave us the most the most dad story ever after the fact. James, you're gonna learn this. You're gonna experience this. James Peterson, for those just tuning in, newly minted as a first-time father. The story is that J.J. Spawn's family, of course, is with him, and his daughter was sick in the middle of the night. And he has to play his final round where he's in a position to win it absolutely. It's not like this was some major come-from-behind situation. They knew, he knew, his family knew, his wife knew, that he had a shot of winning the U.S. Open. But guess what comes first? Being dad.
Absolutely.
And his wife needed his help because his daughter was sick in the middle of the night. He had to go to CVS at 3 a.m. and get the Pedialyte and do that whole thing because his daughter was sick. And then, can you imagine? You're just like, today of all days, I need some rest. I need to go out on that golf course tomorrow, play a great round. I'm within striking distance of my first major. Your kids don't know. And even if they know, they don't care. And the age that his kids are, they're very young. Like they couldn't put it into proper context. And look, this is in modern American life, all right? The 3 a.m. trip to CVS, dads, that's on us. That's a guy thing. That's
Mom's
a dad
not
thing.
going to leave the sick child. She's got to be there.
The kid wants to
Absolutely.
be with mom anyway. And you don't want your wife going to a 24-hour CVS at 3 a.m. We've all seen the goblins that are wandering around those parking lots. You're not sending your wife to that.
Imagine the glare he would have gotten if he said, "Can't you do it? I got a big tournament tomorrow. I got a big round tomorrow."
So it is the modern-day equivalent of, like, you're leaving the cave and you're the one going out and hunting the woolly mammoth, okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I shouldn't. We're the mammoth now, so I'm not going to reference
we're not.
mammoth hunting. You're going out and you're taking
Saber-toothed tiger.
You're taking your spear to get rid of that saber-toothed tiger, which
Yeah,
probably weren't very good.
because we hate the Buffalo Sabres, by the way. That's why we're cool with saying that.
Yeah, sure. You're hunting an ancient musk oxen. Okay, whatever. This is now the task of the modern day dad. We've emerged from the caves, right? We're no longer a hunter-gatherer society, but every once in a while, you got to do a little gathering. And you got to do a little hunting. And in this case, you had to hunt for some Pepto, some children's Pepto-Bismol, and some Pedialyte right before you got to perform at the highest level of your career. You got to go win that major. What a cool story. On Father's Day, no less.
I do love that you're programming the show around my big life event, by the way. You're making so many father references on today, just random Monday in June.
Yes.
I feel honored
Which
by
happens
that.
to be the
OC.
day after Father's Day, yes. But good for JJ Spawn. It makes it so much cooler. That makes it such a better story, right? Every year, people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you won at Oakmont. You won the U.S. Open." And he's going to be like, "Yeah, it's pretty crazy." They're going to be like, "Oh, tell me about it. What was it like hitting that 64-foot putt?" He's like, "Well, I could hardly see straight because I had been up all night with a sick kid.
I was pounding the monsters.
I was hitting whoever his like 5-hour energy or whatever his energy drink sponsor is.
Red Bull, Monster, 5-hour energy. Yeah, one of those.
Now that I think of it, are they big time sponsors in golf?
The 5-hour energy.
No, like just the energy drinks.
I said pounding the monsters, and I'm like, I haven't seen one of those logos.
Like Monster is very much a logo that I would never expect to see on a golf course.
That's like X Games. That's
MMA. That's X
Extreme
Games
and combat sports. Yeah,
that's absolutely like Monster is like. But I can't imagine even like a Ricky Fowler putting on a hat that's got like that
the green M.
hideous green neon M logo.
Oozing M. Yeah.
Like it just doesn't fit. Is there an energy drink that is considered upper crust enough to be on a PGA Tour sponsorship list? Like is Red Bull there?
Maybe
because they do a lot of wacky zany stuff too.
I could see 5-hour energy because it's such a generic looking bottle. It almost looks like a health supplement bottle. If you buy a 5-hour energy, I could see golf being like, oh yeah, that's not too extreme for us. 5-hour energy, let's go.
Yeah, I did not think that we would get to this point on the show, but he
had to have been on insane amount of caffeine.
I'm racking my brain and just being like, I don't even know if I've seen like someone with like a Starbucks sponsorship. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if there's a coffee company out there.
Well,
our guys from Black Rifle. Are they on anything?
Coffee's a little snobbish enough to be part of golf
100%.
coverage. Absolutely.
100%. But why? I mean, the PGA is not that different than NASCAR. They just class it up.
Yeah.
You know, NASCAR's just like, go ahead, slap that sticker on, man.
Let's go.
Let's go. You ain't first, you're last.
Hey, there's room on my windshield.
Yeah, that's right. So, like with
I
golf,
do love Fig Newtons.
with golf, I don't know. I mean, 877-353-0700. Who is the caffeine sponsor of the PGA players?
Because we don't want to Google. Okay, so you just tell us if you know.
I would rather crowdsource my information, which means people could just send in whatever they want. It's not like I have.
Maybe we do wrong answers only.
It's not like I have a. It's not like I have a computer right in front of me, like literally at my fingertips, where I could find this answer. But and admittedly, I don't watch nearly as much golf as probably even most of you do.
Yeah.
But I can't recall a time seeing like, oh, look, there's a guy wearing a 5-Hour Energy polo shirt.
Yeah.
Or a little visor with the Red Bull logo on it. There's got to be something. In any case, JJ Spawn, maybe you're the guy that can bring Monster Energy to the PGA Tour.
He had to have been on an insane amount of caffeine to get through that round. Absolutely.
I mean, the commercial writes itself. Be like, show the highlight. I hit that putt to win my first major championship
What can you do?
at the toughest course in the country. And guess what? I was up all night with a sick kid. You know why I was able to make the putt? Prune candy.
Prune candy.
Anyway.
If you don't chew Big Red, then
No. All right, Scott Mitchell's going to join us next on the Sean O'Connell Show, hour number 2 in 3 minutes. You're listening to Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Start your engines. ESPN 792 FM excited to announce the first ever Monster Jam World Finals coming to Utah July 4th and 5th. We're going to be giving away tickets right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. We start hour number 2 with the lefty. Utah football legend, color analyst in all the Utah broadcasts, and, of course, host of the Down and Dirty right here on ESPN 792 FM. Scott Mitchell, welcome to the show again. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And, you all, tout me as the lefty, right? Which is what I am. And it's been a heavy burden in my life to be left-handed. And you only understand the burden if you're left-handed. And you only notice you notice people who are left-handed. Like, you're right-handed and you just assume everyone's right-handed and you don't care. But left-handed people go, "Oh, you're left-handed," and you notice it, and you all of a sudden have a bond. But Sean, I'm telling you, being left-handed it's been wonderful, meaningful, but also comes with a heavy burden.
Did you know that I am left-handed, Scott?
See, I didn't know that because I've never seen you write anything. So.
It's weird.
You understand then?
I'm left-handed, but I'm right-armed, so it's a little bit backwards.
You don't count.
But the writing thing, that's the real burden. When you have to drag your hand across the paper and you get the lead or you get the ink on the heel of your hand.
Do you write left-handed?
I write left-handed. I eat left-handed.
Oh.
All the small motor skills I do left-handed.
Look at you.
Yeah.
All right, you count. You understand. You understand the dilemma.
All right, we're playing a fun game leading up to the Utah football season. We're doing start, bench, cut. Okay,
love it. Got it.
We're taking Utah greats, and we're going to go position by position, and we're going to start, bench, cut Utah greats. Okay.
Okay.
We started last week with the punter. I haven't talked to you about it, so I'm going to give you last week's question also. Okay, punter.
All right.
Start, bench, cut. Louis Sakota, Tom Hackett, Mitch Wisnowski.
I'm starting Wisnowski, I'm benching Hackett, and I'm cutting Sakota.
Okay. All right. That was the answer for several people, although they were all over the place. Louis gets to make 2 appearances on start, bench, cut because, as you know, he was also a phenomenal kicker for the University of Utah. So start, bench, cut now on Monday. We're here to the kickers. Matt Gay, Andy Phillips, Louis Sakota.
What about Andre Guardi?
Not on the list.
Man, he was from my era. I'm gonna go start. Oh gosh. Oh, this is a hard one.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be.
I thought it was going to be easy because I was going to go. I'm going to go with start Gay.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go bench Louis and cut Andy.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry, Andy.
Yeah. Sorry, Andy. The all-time field goal kicker in the Utah record books, Andy Phillips, has just been cut by Scott Mitchell.
Yeah, he's out.
He's out.
I'm harsh. He's out. I'm sticking to it too. I'll stick with my answer just to be me.
All right. No, look, the problem with this, it's not the problem. It's why it's fun. There's no right answer and there's no wrong answer because, like, you're starting a great guy, but you're also cutting a great guy, no matter who you decide to cut, because that's the nature of the game. Well, I'm not giving you easy questions here. And your name will appear on a start, bench, cut in the future as we work toward the quarterbacks.
Me, I know that already.
No, you're not cutting Scott Mitchell. All right. The transfer portal is once again on the docket for discussion with the decision makers, the rule makers in college football, and the support for a one-time transfer window in early January is the one that at the coaches conference gained the most steam. In fact, they took like a straw poll, and it was passed with unanimous approval at this coaches convention. And so we're looking at a policy change probably coming for 2026. Won't be in place for 2025, but for 2026. And, the options are you stay with the two windows that exist right now. You do a post-spring football window. You do most people's seasons are over, but the college football playoff is not yet complete. January 2nd to like January 12th window and just have that one be the one that sets your roster for the whole year. Where does Scott Mitchell stand?
Well, I definitely stand on that. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's absolutely the way they should do this. It's very similar to NFL free agency and all the things that happen there. People need to realize that you just don't show up at a school after spring football or later in the summer and just go, yeah, I'm going to be ready for the season. The preparing for a season, physically learning the system, acclimating to the culture, doing all of these things is a process that takes time. And you're shortcutting that time, and you're really not giving these players the best opportunity to really perform. And it will benefit everyone. It's going to benefit the athlete because they're going to have the proper time to prepare for a season. It's going to benefit the program because they're going to have that continuity. They know, okay, we're not going to have any surprises. We're not going to get stuck holding the bag like I think Utah did with Zachariah Williams after spring ball, and the fans. You're going to get a better product on the field. You're going to get better production. You're going to get it takes time to get these program or these offenses and defenses running and playing at a high level, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see guys going through half the season before your team figures out how to play well and play together. So I love it. If anyone has half a brain, if anyone can just say, we've got to fix these problems with college football, this is the right solution. And if they don't agree with it, then they just need to quit and they need their head examined.
So when the transfer portal opened, the first time they called it officially a transfer portal, the window was 60 days. That you had 60 days to make the decision and put your name in. And then coaches didn't like that, so they shortened it to 45, and then they shortened it again to 30. A 10-day window is enough time for teams, GMs from these teams, players, coaches, everyone to communicate what they need to communicate and get people into and out of the transfer portal in your mind?
I mean, 10 days is pretty tight, but the reality is, even in professional sports, everyone knows way, way ahead of time. I don't know how they do it miraculously, but they all know, like, as soon as the deadline hits, all the trades are made, everything's done. These people are doing their homework. And if you're not, you're also really stupid. So you have a really good idea of what's available or what's going to be there when the window opens. 10 days seems a little tight. Maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to 30 days, or if there's some kind of, I don't know, matching window that maybe I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I think they're going to have a pretty good idea regardless, right as this thing opens. And I think anyone maybe worth their salt is going to be churned and burned, pretty quickly. The highest regarded guys in the portal, or probably going to be done within a short period of time. But it definitely needs to be short. Dragging it out doesn't do anybody any good. And if you're a team that maybe you're not going to get the highest tiered guys, you have at least enough time to kind of sift through where you fit in the pecking order to get the players that you are hoping for and want, and still be able to do that. Maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's I don't know. They're just, but not certainly not long.
Ryan Day expressed his distaste for this idea. He's one of the few coaches that was just like, no, I don't like this. And part of the reason he doesn't like it is because his team is still playing in the college football playoff. When this window's happening, his Ohio State Buckeyes are still playing. What would you do to accommodate teams that are in the college football playoff, which this year, if I'm not mistaken, didn't end until January 20th? So the window would have opened and closed before their season was done. Most teams in the country are done, January 1st, effectively. What do you do to accommodate teams? Or do you do nothing because it's like you guys don't need the help? All right, you're already – it sets up kind of like an NFL draft situation where, like, you get the last pick of the first round because you're already better than everyone. So let everyone else figure it out. And then you guys, if you're chasing a national championship, you figure that out. And the transfer portal doesn't have to be part of your world right now.
Well, as a head football coach, I would certainly want to be able to be a part of that process and analysis and decision making about these players. I know a lot of these schools and programs, they have people on staff that do a lot of this stuff. You're seeing the general manager now position being a big deal across the board, and so I think that Ohio State's probably equipped to go find those players. It's not like they're going to have a hard time attracting quality talent, both from a money standpoint and just from their program and their prestige. But I don't necessarily disagree with Ryan Day. I mean, what happens? What hurts the portal opening if it's maybe a little bit later and the middle of January? I understand they're all trying to get enrolled in school, and they're starting trying to get acclimated into a new system, and maybe there's some concessions done there with the schools and universities about kind of a mid-semester enrollee or type of thing that they do. But in all fairness to everyone, it really should be after everything is done. And it's almost one of those things where I don't know that there's ever an absolute perfect window if you're trying to get guys enrolled into school and be a part of your program through your winter conditioning side of it. But the best compromise might be something along those lines. Or you just say, hey, maybe if you're a team like Ohio State, or if you make the playoffs, maybe your transfer window rolls later. So maybe you're one of those exceptions that you'll get extra time on the back end for players, and maybe because the player too, there might be a player that goes, I'm going to most benefit from going to an Ohio State or these players are going to want to go to these high profile programs. I mean, so maybe they go, I'm willing to wait a little bit longer if I get a chance to go. I go to one of these other schools. So somehow, some way, there's got to be some concession. Not just sure which way the best is, but I certainly, if I'm a head coach, I want to be involved in that process, and I don't want to be distracted by having to try to win a national championship, because winning is the thing that keeps you employed, and it also is the thing that attracts the money and the best players to your program.
Scott Mitchell, my guest for a few more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, getting closer and closer to college football season, and decisions have to be made, although these decisions will not come into effect for the 2025 season. Transfer portal, college football playoff expansion, which we think is an inevitability. One thing, Scott, I mean, there's a lot of problems in college sports right now. But one thing that I think is improved, is better, is that decisions are made and then changes. If it doesn't really work out, changes are more readily available. It used to be with television contracts and everything else. If you got a system, you adopted a system that nobody liked, we were stuck with it for like a decade. And then we had to wait until, that television contract expires. The BCS computer company, we signed with them, so you got to wait. College sports are now more nimble than they were when it comes to changing even really large-scale things like these transfer portal windows and things like that. I think we could probably trace it back to the whole COVID situation, but maybe somebody smarter than me could tell me when it happened. But I don't know. Not even a question there. Just isn't it kind of refreshing that we don't have to wait forever to make changes if changes are due?
I think it's a really good point, actually, Sean, that there is a willingness for whatever reason to say, hey, look, this doesn't work out. We need to move in a different direction. I also think it helps kind of keep the interest in college football, that they go, oh, there's a 12-team playoff. That's different. Maybe people get more interested in it. Maybe more schools do, because they have a shot to be a part of it, that they're in the conversation and that they're, so it sparks interest. And also maybe college football is recognizing a little bit like the NBA, where they're like, man, we got to be open and flexible and nimble enough to realize that we got to try things. We got to try new things. We got to find out a way to speak to our fans, to engage them, and the ways that we've done in the past clearly aren't. So we've got to have that nimbleness to do it. And yeah, I think it is refreshing. It is nice because it's a great product. It's a great thing to have. And I'm more bullish on college football. And everyone's like, oh, it's died. They've killed it. It's like you're still going to have the games. You're still going to have the teams. It's still going to be fun to watch and be a part of. It just might be in a different frame of mind. It might be in a more professional type of feel to it, but it's still going to be a great thing to watch. And I think they want to get this figured out. It's just trying to herd 100 cats and get them to go in the right direction, I think, is a challenge. But yeah, if they'll continue to have this, look, we don't know the answers yet, but we're willing to try attitude, I think we might get to a good place ultimately down the road.
So, a belated Happy Father's Day, by the way. I know that's
thank you. Same to you.
I know that's a role you cherish very much. The U.S. Open, great story about the eventual winner, J.J. Spaun. He had, he had to take care of dad duties in the middle of the night because his daughter was sick, so he had to run to CVS at like 3 a.m. or whatever. And I know that the NFL is different, and usually you're staying at a team hotel or whatever. But do you have a story or stories from your career when you had to be dad first and then worry about being a quarterback after?
The one that comes to my mind is my oldest daughter was born during training camp, and it was like we were supposed to leave the next day to go play our game, which was in New England, and it was a preseason game, and I actually was like, okay, I'm going to have to miss this game. Whenever she's born, I'm just going to miss the game. And even if it would have been a regular season game, I would have missed the game. But fortunately, she was actually born the day before we had to leave, so she understood. She understood when to be born, and how you act. Anyways, and the scary part was my wife had been in labor all day. And she didn't know it. And we almost had the baby on the way to the hospital. And she had my daughter Haley within 20 minutes of, if that. The doctor didn't even get there. The nurses actually delivered Haley. So she came pretty quick. But that was really the only time. And speaking of J.J. Spaun, man, he's my new hero because golf fans are kind of spoiled and snobbish, and we want the big names to win. And just how he won that tournament was just so fun and so exciting to watch. It even makes it better now that I know he had to get up at 3 a.m. to go to CVS. So good for him and good for fathers everywhere.
Yeah, pretty cool story. Pretty cool to see him win that thing, and the toughest course in America in some people's minds, to be able to just battle it out. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, very much. Oakmont is brutally hard. And I just love when he needed just the greatest shot, and he hit that drive on 17 and made the birdie, and then 18, because we've seen, Phil Mickelson had a massive meltdown when he should have won the championship if he did, just get you driving the fairway. And then the putt, man, what an incredible, so just fun. And to me, that's what's so great about sports. That's why we do this. That's why we love it. That's why we watch. Just because we know we might see something like that happen, and it makes us feel good, and it's exciting and massively entertaining.
Is the Aaron Rodgers Pittsburgh experiment, now that we have contract details, it's like $10 million, can be 13 with the right performance or whatever. How are we going to look back at that when it's done?
Well, I think it's a good place for him. They're a pretty good team that could go places in the playoffs, and they get the quarterback playing at a pretty high level, which he's very capable of still. The only thing that ever worries me about Aaron Rodgers is he going to have that? Is it going to be his time to get injured? And he kind of went through that with the Achilles. But as far as his capability, his skills, he's still capable. I don't know how long. Maybe there's a 1-year deal for the Steelers, and they're probably looking like, we've got a team that can compete right now. We just need the quarterback position to play well. They're a great organization. They have been for decades, and so you can create a really good and healthy environment for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Unlike the Jets, where it's just a train wreck and a nightmare. The stability of this could be a place where he could really flourish this year, and probably about this year. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Steelers competing and being into the playoffs. And I think the AFC is, I think there's a lot of good teams, but I think a lot of teams could win the AFC this year, actually.
Scott, great talking to you as always. Appreciate you joining me on the show today.
You got it. Thank you, Sean.
You can tune in at 10 a.m. every single day for the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell right here on ESPN 792.1 FM, immediately preceding the Sean O'Connell Show. It's a great lead-in. I love when I'm on my way in listening to Scott Mitchell. He's always got a unique perspective, especially on things football because, of course, he played so long in the NFL and was a great college player as well. The kicker, by the way, that he wanted me to put on the list, Andre Guardi, sixth all-time in made field goals at the University of Utah from 83 to 86 he played. He was ninth all-time on the single-season records, and he is one of how many guys? One of several kickers that made 4 field goals in a single game. So he's in the Utah record books. He doesn't belong next to Andy Phillips, Louis Sakota, and Matt Gay. Not quite, but he was a really high-quality kicker, Andre Guardi, for the Utes. So got a nice little shout-out from Scott Mitchell.
Honorable mention cut for Andre Guardi.
I'm also cutting him, respectfully. Also, James, we went off on that random tangent about Monster Energy.
Yeah. I saw the couple of texts we got, yeah.
Lesser-known golfer. Some people have heard of him. Some people haven't. Actually did have a partnership with Monster Energy.
Maybe diehard golf fans know him.
Yeah.
People like you and I don't know him.
Eldrick Woods, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it shows you how much golf I watch. I totally missed that. Tiger Woods has a Monster Energy golf bag.
Also, a couple of points here, because some name calling on the text line for us not knowing that.
Yes, but if you scroll back at that particular person, that's just kind of their MO.
That's their MO.
They're
a little bit cranky on the text line. Shout out to you, cranky texter.
Shout out to our cranky texters. We have a couple of them that they just love to be like, you guys suck. I hate ESPN 700.
You fuel us, okay?
It's like, all right, cool.
Just like Monster fuels Tiger.
Thank you for sending us that feedback.
But a couple of points here. Number one, Tiger hasn't been relevant for 15 years now. Like, he's still
okay.
He's
careful now.
He's still relevant in the sense that when we talk golf, we're gonna ask, hey, can he contend? But in a sense that he's actually on your TV on Sundays and majors, that's not happening very much.
Yeah,
So that's number one. Number two, I'm not sure Monster. Monster was sponsoring him when he was in his heyday. We're thinking Nike for Tiger.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, my third point: when you're watching golf, are you paying attention to the logo on their shirt, their visor? You do? Okay. I'm watching the golf.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, I don't care enough about the golf. Like, so I'm just like, KPMG. What is KPMG?
You're like
Let me look this up.
So the marketing is for you specifically.
The marketing's for me. The marketing is for me, which is why I was like, wait, who's the caffeine sponsor? Who's the energy drink sponsor? Because I do notice those things.
So a lesser-known golfer,
his name
is sponsoring Monster.
Goes by
is sponsored by Monster.
Yeah, Tiger apparently had a Monster. But it's funny because I Googled, and energy drink sponsors PGA Tour, and it's like, that's it. It's like Tiger has Monster.
Yeah. So
what a weird deal.
It is weird.
Explain to me why that's the case. Because golf has become very much an every man's game. Everybody I know plays golf except me.
Lots of people drink energy drinks,
and
too.
Everybody drinks energy drinks at some point. Yeah. All of us are just like, I need that caffeine mix, man. I'm dying.
Yeah, maybe you're sick of, you don't want one more cup of coffee, so you grab an energy drink instead, or if you don't drink coffee, you're drinking energy drinks, whatever. People drink energy drinks. Yeah, it is strange.
You know what else is really wild about the whole energy drink thing? You would think we've reached a point of market saturation now where Monster, Rockstar, Red Bull, fill in the blank here. There's enough energy drinks out on the market, you would think. Nope. You could still start an energy drink company and be wildly successful and have like worldwide distribution. I would have thought the market was full. Nope, it ain't. We're not here to talk about energy drinks. But anyway, thank you for correcting us, especially you cranky texters.
Yeah,
Thanks for pointing it out.
yeah. Thank you for fueling us every day, cranky texters. JJ Spawn, by the way, if he doesn't have energy drinks calling him energy drink companies calling him or his people, they should be calling him.
They should.
They should be capitalizing on
like,
that
hey,
story.
did you get while you were at CVS at 3 a.m.? Did you get the Pedialyte and get the thermometer and get all the stuff you needed for your sick daughter?
Get a
and
children's
also,
Monster too.
Did you also get a Monster energy drink? And he's just like, no. They're like,
can you say that you did?
Did you get one? Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, I did. That's right, I did. They're like, okay, we're going to give you $1 million. You're welcome, JJ Spawn. We just figured it out for you.
We're not even going to ask you for a cut of that, but if you feel so inclined, give some credit to us. Go ahead.
All right, we got to take
our way.
We got to take a quick one here. When we come back, the trade values in the NBA are one of the great mysteries. It's like, who built the pyramids? What happened to the dinosaurs? And how is that guy worth that many picks in the NBA? I cannot figure out trade values, but we'll get into it with what happened with Orlando and Memphis. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
He drives inside. Well defended. Holmgren and Caruso right there. The Thunder a chance to take the lead. Gilgeous-Alexander on the drive, pulls back. Baseline jumper's good. OKC with their first lead of the second half.
You can listen to the finals right here on ESPN 792.1 FM. We are your home of the NBA playoffs. That was a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Gilgeous-Alexander SGA go-ahead shot, and the Thunder's comeback win in Game 4. That sound courtesy of ESPN. Mike Breen on the call. Series is all tied up at 2 apiece. Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City. We've got it at 6 o'clock on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right. Desmond Bane, 3-and-D, right? 41% three-point shooter, good defensive player. Orlando is bringing him in to add to what they think is a really solid core with Suggs and Banchero and company, and they are willing to pay an insane price. The price is 4 unprotected first-round picks, 1 pick swap, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Cole Anthony. I'm sorry, what? For Desmond Bane? Never been an all-star? James, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff. Never been an all-star, right?
Yeah, checking on his credentials, but keep going.
Not like, I don't know, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. No superlative awards as far as I'm aware for Desmond Bane so far. And the haul of picks that you get back for sending him packing is players and picks. This is like a Hall of Fame level guys. This is Rudy Gobert. At least
yeah, that was ridiculous.
We keep talking and look, every time I think about it, I still sit back in my chair with like that little, just the corner of your mouth just takes like, wow, really fleeced them. Really, and look, it has worked out nicely.
I mean, yeah, back-to-back Western Conference Finals. I'm not sure it's as big of a fleecing as it seemed at the moment, but
it's one of the rare trades where both teams won the trade.
Yeah, still an overpay. Like, I still maintain that for Rudy Gobert. But that's the point you're about to make. At least Rudy Gobert is a Hall of Fame level player. He's not that way on the offensive end, but he's absolutely that on the defensive end. He gets you just enough as a rim runner on the offense to make him a multiple time All-Star at the time of the trade, and a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year at the time of the trade. He's won one more than that.
The guy is undeniable.
Bane is nowhere near that.
As long as you're talking about the defensive side of the court, the dude is worth it. "Quote unquote worth it,"
yeah,
right?
I mean, Minnesota thought so.
It's one of those things where they probably knew they were overpaying a little bit, but they said, you know what, this is exactly what our team needs right now. And the results since then have been like, okay, sure. I honestly am hoping for that for Orlando because it'd be fun to see, a random Eastern team, especially one like Orlando, kind of rise the ranks and become a power in the East. And let's see this. But this is. It's one of those weird trades where I'm like, is this setting a new market for like a Lauri Markkanen type player? Because while Desmond Bane doesn't have the All-Star credentials, like you would probably put him and Lauri Markkanen in similar buckets, not the same position, but like how good is this guy as an NBA player? Just like how good is he? Well, he's not the first name that comes out anyone's mouth. But another person that you look at him, well-respected, high-quality player, good work ethic, no problems off the court, that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, they're similar categorically, even if they're not similar players.
I mean, one more All-Star appearance between the two of them. I would say that's fair to say. Bane, just to be fair, I would say he's higher than just a 3-and-D player. He careers about 18 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, about 4 assists a game. This last year, 19, 6, and 5. Those three splits. So
okay, great.
I'd say probably more than just a 3-and-D player, but still wild overpay for the guy. And this is not going to make the Magic title contenders. It's not even going to make them close. I mean, They could be a 50-win team next year, sure, if Banchero and Franz Wagner stay healthy, which they did not last year. And maybe they win one more playoff series than we expected them to. Maybe they're a second-round playoff.
Look, there's not one player on the Utah Jazz team right now that you would not happily send away for this return.
Absolutely not.
Given where Utah's at right now, and given how long it's going to take before you climb back into contention of any kind, if somebody made this phone call about Lowry's the only one who you're getting this kind of an offer for.
I mean, there's teams like the Lakers who are desperate for a center that if the Jazz press them to, maybe they get something similar for Walker Kessler too. But yeah, realistically, Lowry's the only guy.
4 unprotected first-round picks, 1 pick swap, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony for 19, what'd you say, 19, 6, and 5?
Yeah, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Borderline all-star numbers.
What am I missing, though? Like, good player, solid player.
Yes.
This is not the trade package you send for a solid player.
Well, it's like the Mikal Bridges trade with the Knicks last year. 6 first-round picks. And he was valuable for the Knicks this year. They went farther than they ever did in the last 25 years with him on the team this year, but not.
And they
not
fired
a
their
6,
coach.
Not
just
yeah.
Fun reminder. And then they fired their coach.
They fire their coach, but not a guy worth 6 first-round picks. Like the amount that teams are starting to overpay for the third or for a guy who will be your third or fourth best player at best is wild.
That's the correct way to frame it, I think, James. If we put out a poll, okay, Ryan Smith, let us borrow give us a Qualtrics login, and I'm just going to send an anonymous poll to every GM in the league, every GM, every president of basketball operations, and I'm just going to say, would you give up, never mind the other stuff, would you give up 4 unprotected first-round picks for the third best player on your roster to bring back a guy who's going to be your number 3? Every single one of them is going to say no. No, I would never do that.
Well, you think about going back to what I was saying about the Magic not even being close to a title still with this. Put that in contrast with the Boston Celtics when they acquired Kristaps Porzingis. I think they got 2 draft picks. Correct me if I'm wrong. Texters 877-353-0700, but none of them weren't even all first round picks. Marcus Smart was the centerpiece guy that they had to trade away for Kristaps Porzingis, and that's the kind of level of player that the Magic are getting in Desmond Bane, a borderline all-star player at his very best, who could be a nice complementary piece to your stars. But the difference is the Celtics were like that piece away from winning a title. That and Drew Holiday, they were that close to winning a title. The Magic did this, paid way more for a guy who's not better than Kristaps Porzingis right now anyway, and they're still not close to a title.
This is
not good for the Magic.
I mean, did the Orlando Magic just pay more for Desmond Bane than the Lakers paid for Luka?
Yeah.
Because I get it, Hall of Fame level player in exchange for
another
Luka.
reason for Mavs fans to be upset today. Other than they feel better because they have the lottery turned out.
It changed. Like Anthony Davis being in there changes that a lot.
Yeah,
because you have someone that, when healthy, is a Hall of Fame level player in exchange for a Hall of Fame level player.
Yeah,
but it feels to me. Maybe we should run a poll. Maybe I should put a poll up. Did Orlando pay more for Desmond Bane than the Lakers paid for Luka? And if the answer to that question is even debatable, is even like, maybe they did, you've done something wrong.
Yes.
No disrespect to Desmond Bane. By the way, Desmond, I know you listen to the show every day.
Yeah.
I don't say any of this to disrespect Desmond
I believe
Bane.
he started listening to you on Pac-12 today when the Grizzlies were playing the Jazz in the first round 4 years ago.
I'm a fan of anyone who goes about their business and does it the right way in professional sports and is a team player, and he's exhibited all of that, right? So no disrespect
Certainly
to him.
a valuable player on a good team, absolutely.
But when you're mortgaging however many years, or even if you've got a lot of draft capital and you have this to spend, it's like it feels like, even if that's the situation for the Magic, and I'm not sure that it is, but like, let's say it is, that's still like you're a multimillionaire walking in and buying a Kia for $100,000.
Yeah,
it's like, no, sir, you could get this for $50,000. What are you doing? No. I want this one exactly. I want this exact colored interior, and I want this exact exterior, and I want this trim package.
And I'll pay double for it.
And I will give you $100,000 for it. They're just like, okay, okay, that's fine. But there's a Cadillac dealership next door, and they just sold a nicer car
for the same price.
Or for less. They're the Los Angeles Lakers or the Dallas Mavericks. Like, what are we doing here? This is nuts. And if your last name is Ainge, you should be getting on the phone and being like, we have a player who's better than Desmond Bane who we would be willing to move on from for the right package.
Yeah. For that, you don't say that publicly, but absolutely behind closed doors, you're saying that. And I said that off air. This is probably why, at the time, Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck were so willing to just keep Lowry when the Warriors called about him last year, the Kings called about him last year, because they said, "Look what we got for Rudy Gobert. We're going to sucker a team in to giving us something similar. We just know we will."
Oh, my goodness.
And right now, they look pretty good if that's what they're actually thinking. They look pretty good right now, and they have even more reason to hold on to Lowry until someone gives him a king's ransom.
Kevin Durant's still under contract with Phoenix, right?
He is. That was other big news. And speaking of NBA trades, his top three teams were named
Miami, Houston, and San Antonio.
So he named his teams.
How mad is he right now?
Yes,
because now you're just like, well, Phoenix was willing to work with me here, but now they're like, oh, well, if they got that for Desmond Bane, what can we get for you?
Yeah, they might. If the Suns would be smart to play hardball and be like, we'll just keep him. He doesn't want to be here, but we'll keep him if you don't give us the price, San Antonio. If you don't give us Victor Wembanyama, we'll keep him.
Who would you rather have on your team next season, Kevin Durant or Desmond Bane?
Obviously, Kevin Durant.
There's nobody out there except for the Orlando Magic who are just like, I think the answer to that is Desmond Bane.
The quotes in the ESPN article, too, the guy didn't say we feel like we're going to contend for a championship, but he basically said that with this trade. Like, you are up in the night, my
I hope
friend,
you're right. I honestly,
Mr. Weltman.
I hope it works out for Orlando the way that the Rudy thing worked out for Minnesota, because that was like both parties are happy. Minnesota's happy with what they've gotten out of Rudy because he fits into that team, into what those needs were alongside Ant-Man. And like, okay, we needed this. And he's worked well with Julius Randle. Like, this is good for us.
Yeah, in two different iterations of that team, it's worked fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's worked out nicely for them. Now, the Jazz are just like, yeah, we have a bunch of picks. Obviously, it hasn't worked out for the Jazz competitively yet, but I think both parties are happy there. I hope that we are sitting here a year from now going like, hey, apologies to the Orlando Magic for thinking they didn't know what they were doing. Because it would be more interesting if another team emerged in the East as like a real contender. I just don't see it.
One of the reasons why I'm so adamant about how they're not close is that Paolo Banchero needs to get a jump shot. Like, he's a star player who he's LeBron when he first came into the league. The Spurs in that 07 finals, we've heard all the stories. We remember watching it. Those that remember watching it, they played off of him a few feet and said, "Be a jump shooter." That's what teams do to Paolo Banchero, and guess what? They win that way. So, like, Paolo Banchero is not the star player that some think that he is yet. And that, like, if he was, then sure, making a gamble like this in this parity era of the NBA, you'd be like, this is well worth it. But it's just they're just not there yet.
That might be they might be recognizing that this collective bargaining situation right now, the window is open for an Orlando Magic that's not going to be open in the future. Although that's also not fair because there's no reason why Orlando can't be a destination city. I get it. Miami's sexier. You have the same tax benefits in Orlando that you do in Miami. And look,
does Miami have Disney World? I don't think so.
There's a lot of NBA players who have families.
Yeah.
And if you're just like, we're going to Orlando, tell them to throw in season passes to Disney as a part of your contract.
And Universal Studios.
Yeah, not SeaWorld, though. Don't support it. I don't support you, SeaWorld. Okay, we've all seen Blackfish.
Shame on you, SeaWorld.
All right. Got to take a quick one here. A big thing is happening in Major League Baseball today. Pretty significant. We'll get into it in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Big Major League Baseball trade as well. We were just talking about the Desmond Bain trade in the NBA. The Red Sox were just like, yeah, we got an all-star. San Francisco, you want him? Were you surprised by this one?
Not quite the same caliber of a haul for my Red Sox in this one. A lot of people are down on the haul, though. OC, I definitely was surprised by this trade. But Harrison, young starting pitcher, one of the top prospects of his class in the majors, has some potential to be a really reliable starter. A couple other guys who could be bullpen guys. I think this could work out well for the Red Sox still. I'm not quite as down on it as other people, especially because Devers clearly was disgruntled. So deal him to a team that's desperate for a guy like him, fine. But you would have liked to get a better haul than they did. This was not the Desmond Bain haul for the Magic.
Kyle Harrison was walking to the bullpen to get warm for a start. And they're like, just kidding.
Sorry, can't start you because you're not on the team anymore.
We're actually going to be gone.
Yeah.
That's
did you see
deal.
As part of this, I didn't realize it's been this long. The Giants haven't had a 30 home run season from a guy since Barry Bonds.
Is that true?
2004. Yeah. And they won 3 World Series in that time.
Wow.
So not by hitting homers, apparently.
Yeah, they had some great pitching in those situations.
And I mean, I was shocked. Buster Posey is an MVP, not a 30 homer guy.
Yeah. Wow. Those were
you were in were in the Bay during one of those, at least one of those, right?
Here's what happened, okay? When I went out to San Francisco, right? It was I worked for a single year, and then I came back. And as soon as I left, the 49ers have since made it to a couple Super Bowls. The Giants have won 3 World Series or 2 World Series?
It was 2010, 2012, 2014. Yeah, 3 of them.
Okay, so they won a third one after I left. Everyone got better. The Warriors then started to be their dynasty.
Yeah.
I was the problem apparently for all the Bay Area sports teams.
Or if you want to take more positive look to it, you were the catalyst. You're like, I got here, then I left, and everything. You needed me here for a year.
Okay, I mean, if I had actually gotten to cover any of it, I did get to see the final home game at Candlestick. That was cool.
Okay,
that was great to see.
Yeah,
but then all those teams started just winning championships. Anyway.
Or getting close to it.
Yeah, or getting close to it. All right, we're gonna talk a little Stanley Cup final here in about 5 minutes. James has done a great job. He was off welcoming in his very first child for the Father's Day weekend and for the week before that, and immediately right back on the producing horse. So Brian Hayward is going to join us from Sports USA, color analyst on these Stanley Cup final games. We'll get to that here in about 5 minutes. You'll notice if you live in a house with windows, and most of us do, that right now is the time of year when you really need those windows to be performing properly, and you really need to make sure that you have high-quality windows because your energy costs are about to skyrocket. We're now rounding into the hot part of summer. That southern-facing part of my house is just getting baked all day long, and the sun is coming up early and not setting until 9:30 p.m., so my air conditioner is working overtime. We know what that does. That really pushes those energy costs way up. You know, one of the best ways to create energy savings for your house, especially if it's an older home, high-quality replacement windows from Advanced Window Products. AdvancedWindows.com. Tell them that OC sent you. $2,500 off 10 windows or more, which is a great deal. And more importantly, they're going to come out. Maybe Nate Orchard himself will be the one who stops by the house, but they're going to come out. It's a local measurement crew. It's a local sales staff. It's a local installation crew. Everything, the manufacturing, the measurement, all of it is done locally. And then the warranty coverage is done here, locally, in the heart of Salt Lake City, which means no middleman, no runaround. No, that was an installer problem. Oh, that was a manufacturer problem. Oh, no, that's a warranty service problem. They take care of all of it for the life of your home. Advanced Windows takes care of us. They will take care of you. maybe your windows are in great shape, but your window coverings are allowing that sun to come in and beat down on the furniture and heat up the air in the house. They can also just take care of the window coverings for you, the blinds and plantation shutters, all of it. It is a one-stop shop, advancedwindows.com. And listen, tell them OC sent you. They're going to give you a little bit of extra, maybe bump you up the schedule, whatever. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. 801-850-9100, advancedwindows.com. We'll be right back with Brian Hayward to talk some NHL. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues on a Monday. Stanley Cup final heating up, getting interesting. I'm happy to see that the Stanley Cup Final Series and the NBA Final Series actually have delivered a lot more interest and intrigue than some of the series leading up. But this one is wild. And joining us to talk about it, Brian Hayward. You can hear him on many a broadcast throughout your NHL season, primarily known for work with the Anaheim Ducks, but we love him for all of his analysis. Brian, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to be aboard.
All right, before we get into this series, this Panthers and Oilers series, were you surprised to see Hellebuck get the double trouble, go best goaltender and overall NHL MVP? First time in 10 years we've seen it happen.
I was a little bit surprised only because, Connor McDavid's in the league. And, my opinion, who had the best season, who's the best player, it's McDavid. But there's no disputing that Hellebuck had a phenomenal regular season. And it's hard to say he doesn't deserve to be the MVP, but it is rare. He played an awful lot of games, of course, and he had sparkling save percentage and goals against and the team in Winnipeg is one of the top teams in the league. So I was surprised that he won, quite honestly. Happy for him, and it'll be interesting to see who the next goalie is, because I'm a little biased, as the next goaltender.
Sure.
That wins the MVP.
Do you like the fact that the MVP award is a strictly regular season award, or should we also incorporate the Stanley Cup playoffs into it?
No, I think when 16 teams don't qualify for the postseason, you have to recognize, great performances throughout the regular season. So yeah, I do like the fact that it's just a regular season award, and then we have the Conn Smythe for the best player in the postseason, and McDavid, Draisaitl, Sam Bennett. Probably Brad Marchand are very strong candidates to win that this year.
When you compare the Hart Trophy to the Vezina, look, obviously MVP of the league overall is a heck of a thing, but you goalies are you're unique animals. So how many individuals come up through junior hockey and all that saying, I want to win NHL MVP? Is the Vezina more the one like, I know that's attainable, I know I can get that? Give me a sense of the significance of each trophy to the position specifically, to goaltenders specifically.
Well, the Vezina is exclusively for goaltenders, and it is voted on by the general managers. And so that's a little bit different than the MVP. There's a much larger body of people that are voting for that. I always thought that, the Vezina trophy in some ways is more accurate, because these are the people whose lives depend on performance, the GMs I'm talking about, that are making the decision. There's only 32 of them that pick the winner of the Vezina trophy. So it's a little bit unique in that respect. Do goalies grow up dreaming about winning the Vezina? Sure they do. Do they dream about winning the MVP? Yeah, but it's a long shot. So what Hellebuck has accomplished, there are not too many guys, too many goaltenders that have won that award in the past, and I think it speaks to the kind of season that he had.
All right, let's get into this actual series tonight. Game 6, 6 p.m. Puck drop 6 p.m. Mountain Time, at least. Florida on top 3-2. Likelihood in your mind that the Panthers find a way to close it out, or do we get at least 7 in this one?
You never know what's going to happen in this series. There's been crazy swings in momentum, but it's hard to think that Florida won't do. It's got to be in the back of their mind that they can't go back to Edmonton. Teams play the regular season to get home ice, and although home ice hasn't meant all that much, last year Florida had home ice in Game 7 and they won. This year Edmonton's got Game 7. I don't think Florida wants to give them the opportunity, to win it at home in a Game 7. I think home ice advantage makes a difference in Game 7. I can't explain exactly why, but I think that it does. I also believe, I just think the Panthers, in this, what I call a war of attrition, which is the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're healthier than Edmonton. Edmonton's got a couple of guys really dinged up that we know of that are playing, and they're missing Zach Hyman, which is a key forward. Essentially, they're down one and a half of their top six forwards, I'll call it, because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is not at 100%. Florida's healthy. They've got all their guys going, and they're rolling. I think they're the best team. I'll be surprised if they don't close it out, but you never know. I won't say for sure if they're going to win Game 6 because, like I said, this series there's been huge swings.
How much does the amount of overtime hockey we have seen played just in this series affect, I guess, at least partially what you were just talking about, that battle of attrition, the health, advantage on one side or the other? We're getting free hockey as fans, but I imagine if you're on the ice that having it happen multiple times in one series could get a little taxing.
Yeah, I think it favors the Panthers, quite honestly. Having more overtimes, I think they're the deeper team. They're certainly deeper on the blue line. Edmonton is, everybody knows they're essentially a front-loaded team. They've got arguably two of the best players in the world in McDavid and Draisaitl. And, as the games get longer and go into an extended overtime period, you have to rely on your depth players to play a little bit more frequently. And so that puts the Oilers at a disadvantage, and I think it swings everything in favor of Florida.
You brought up Connor McDavid a couple times, and obviously, he's regarded as the best player consistently in and out season over season. And, he's been incredible. He's been a huge part of the Oilers being in Stanley Cup finals in back-to-back years. It almost feels silly having this question come out of my mouth, but has he done enough in this particular series? We've seen him with incredible stick work and a bunch of assists. I guess just, is he scoring enough goals? I know you're asking a lot of a guy like Connor McDavid if you're asking for more than what we've already seen, but he is the superstar, one of the superstars in the game right now.
I would say that if the Oilers are going to win, he has to do more, certainly than he has in the last three games. And it's not because he's not trying to make things happen. It's more a tip of the cap to what Florida is doing to essentially just say, okay, if we contain McDavid, we'll win the game. If we give him any kind of room, let him roam free, then we're in big trouble. So, they've got Gustav Forsling, they've got Aaron Ekblad. They also happen to have the two forwards in Reinhart and Barkov that finished 1-2 as the best defensive forwards in the game, and they're on the ice most of the time when McDavid is out there. And they have one job. Their job is not to score. Their job is to, kind of contain him. You can't eliminate him, but try and contain him. And they've done a remarkable job of doing that. But having said that, if the Oilers are going to come back, if they're going to win Game 6, we're waiting for a Connor McDavid moment. We saw one early in the series up in Edmonton. We haven't seen one since. One that just pulls you right out of your seats and you say, I've never seen that before. Capable of doing that. And I think he's going to have to do it a couple of nights from now in Game 6.
Brian Hayward is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Former NHL goaltender, also Sports USA analyst. I bring up the NHL goaltender thing because you've got a really interesting situation in what they're figuring out in goal for Edmonton right now. I mean, you got playoff Bob on the other side, and Skinner had a great run up to this point and then has had a couple of bad games, and so they lean on Pickard. What is that room like when you are going back and forth and the substitutions are happening and that decision might not be coming down until day of?
I think they're used to it. Like the players in the room, I think the goaltenders are used to it because, frankly, this has been going on for a while with Edmonton. Stuart Skinner, he has great moments and he has a lot of not so great moments. Very inconsistent. He's not the athlete that Sergei Bobrovsky is, and he's more of what I call a shot blocker. He's a great big guy, fills up a lot of the net. But I don't think there's any question it's going to be Skinner's net for Game 6. He's the guy that they really count on to put them over the top. A lot of people have thought that really is the difference in this series, and I would agree so far. I mean, Bobrovsky's been terrific. The Oilers' goaltending has been inconsistent, and in this sport, it makes all the difference in the world. So they got to go with Skinner. He's the better of the two goaltenders that they have, and I'm certain he'll be in for Game 6.
When you're going through your routine, going through your warm up, do you know whether it's going to be a great day where you're in the flow and you're seeing everything? Is there anything that's an indicator when it's you who's playing in goal? And now that you're an analyst, is there anything that you can see as you're watching warm-ups or talking to guys before the game or week of or whatever that's an indicator of like, oh, it might be a rough night?
I look for frustration in the pregame skate, and certainly in the hockey players have a morning skate usually around, if you're the home team, you're on the ice if it's a 8 o'clock start, you're on the ice at 10:30, and I watch the goaltenders because I have an aptitude towards those types of things, and I look just to see the body language if there's frustration. If there's frustration, I anticipate there's potential for it being a long night. If there's not, if they're having fun and they're joking around and they look loose and relaxed, then that's the best frame of mind that they can be in, and the chances of them having a really good game are much higher. So that's about the only thing that I look for. Quite honestly, I don't look at technique. I don't look at how many goals go in, because it doesn't matter before the game starts. The only thing that matters is that, to me, is that body language, because that's a window into the mindset of the goaltender before he's going to get the start that night.
Is Brad Marchand going to be a Panther next year and beyond, do you think?
I don't know. His market value is skyrocketing right now. It's funny because what a lot of people don't know is that he spent much of the regular season not at 100%. And even in the Four Nations Cup played earlier this year, at times I thought he looked a little bit slow compared to, the best of the best playing in that tournament, right? But now he's healthy and he feels great, and he looks like a different guy than he looked like most of this past regular season. So his market value is going sky high. I don't know how the Panthers can keep Marchand and Bennett. I really don't. It's incredible to me what wonderful timing those two gentlemen have as they go into unrestricted free agency, that they are both having absolutely incredible playoffs.
A contract year is a real thing in a lot of sports, and it seems like it is, at least for those two. There's a lot of Mammoth fans, Utah Mammoth fans, that think that Sam Bennett would be a great fit here, and he's got relationships in Salt Lake City. Is that a possibility in your mind?
Well, get in line. I mean, the teams are going to be lining up to try and sign Sam Bennett. Utah and the tax situation there gives them an advantage over a lot of other folks. But I don't know. I don't know Sam, so I don't want to say that money is the only determining factor for him as to where he ends up. But he has the luxury to choose, and he's going to have a lot of options. I know that, because the way he has performed in this postseason, there's 31 other teams right now thinking, man, if I could fit him in our lineup, he would really help.
So staying focused on the Mammoth here, it's been absolutely phenomenal for the community here, for the sports community here, for us in sports media to have an NHL team. And it all came together, as you know, very quickly. And everything was optimism. Everything was, oh, this is new, this is great, this is fun, this team has bright young stars. We're going to make a little playoff push, which ultimately, as the GM cautioned us would be the case, didn't quite make it into the playoffs. And then you watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you're like, man, it was cool watching the Mammoth this year, but there is a gap between what Edmonton is and what Florida is and what this Mammoth team is. What is the best way to make up that gap if you're, in that same ballpark that we find ourselves in. The Blues are there and the Flames are there, and the Sharks are trying to be in that same picture, et cetera.
I think the hard thing for rabid hockey fans is that sometimes it just takes time. Like the Mammoth have a lot of young stars in their lineup, but they're in their early 20s. And the one thing to look at when you look at the Panthers and the Oilers, these are the two of the oldest teams in the league. And their best performing players are, in their 30s. So sometimes it takes a while for those young guys to really become the impact type of players every night when they play, or most every night when they play. Just takes experience more than anything else. The quick fix, of course, is unrestricted free agency, being able to add the right guy at the right time. And I'm sure that, you mentioned Sam Bennett, and I'll talk about the team that I cover most often in Anaheim. They're all looking at a guy like Sam Bennett and thinking that gives us a jump ahead, or Mitch Marner, or some, these star caliber players that become available through free agency can give you a push, but not like basketball. There's 20 players that are dressed for every game that have an impact of the game in hockey. So they don't give you the kind of impact that landing a superstar basketball player will give you, but they'll give you definitely a certain pop in the right direction. So, but sometimes in the case of the Mammoth, it might just take another year or two for these young players to really become everyday impact players.
Before I let you go, Team USA, helped out by some Mammoth players, won a world championship, first time in a long time, able to do that. And, we got an Olympic cycle coming up in, 8 months now? So does that change the calculus in your mind on Team USA's Olympic hopes?
In terms of I'm not sure I understand the question. In terms of how successful we can hope that they will be in that tournament?
Yeah, basically.
Well, the World Championships are a little bit different because you don't have all the best players there.
Right.
Because they're still participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it's almost like a showcase for all of those guys on the bubble. There's probably 30, 35 strong candidates to be picked for the team, and there's only maybe a dozen locks, and then there's 20 or so guys that are all trying to make an impression. The fact that they played in the World Championships and won is a feather in their cap that will help all of those bubble players. But I think what the general managers are going to look at more than anything is the NHL regular season. Leading up to that, I think that will be, the biggest deciding factor into who ultimately becomes part of that Team USA roster.
All right, I lied to you. I said that was going to be the last thing, but I am obsessed with the artistic expression that is only allowed in professional sports in one spot, and that is the goalie mask. And obviously you had one of the best ones in the history of the league, and our guy Veggie has this great dinosaur-themed mask, and just the decision-making process, the finding of the artist, or just if you don't mind, walk me through how a goalie, or how you at least, decided what was going on that mask before you went out to skate on NHLS.
Well, yeah, you're talking to the right guy here, because I actually had a business once where we hand-painted miniature replicas of NHL goalie masks. It did very well for me, actually. But the big key is which artist you select, and then you work with the artist. You tell him what components you want in your design. Some guys draw up their own designs. Other people, just rely on the artist solely to send something back. But it is a really unique property. It's the only property in professional sports that I can think of. It's not owned by the league. That's tied more closely to the individual player, and that's what I think makes it such an interesting thing. And there are a lot of cool masks out there and a lot of great artists. But for those goalies and their agents, if they know what they're doing, they'll get the artist to sign over the rights to them when the mask is done.
So did you find, was the artist somebody that you knew? Was the artist like a tattoo artist, an airbrush guy
No.
from a motorcycle shop? How'd you find the artist?
Some guys are, but for the most part now, there's probably a network of about 10 guys that are known around the league as the guys that will really do a good job. And so the goaltending fraternity, even though you compete against one another, it's still a pretty tight-knit group, and the word spreads quickly. The trainers for each individual teams know who they trust to do a job on the mask, and then it's really up to the individual goaltender to decide who he wants to use. And because masks nowadays are pretty much the same product. They changed the foam inside, but the actual shell of the mask is pretty much identical for player to player. It's not so much a custom shell anymore. It's more of a custom foam inside.
Interesting. Well, thank you for indulging me with that little bit there. And obviously,
my pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on the show today. I think I said it, puck drops tonight. It's tomorrow night. It's Tuesday. I'm getting over eager for Game 6. But Brian, appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Anytime.
Ryan Hayward, Sports USA analyst, longtime NHL goalie, and owner of one of the most iconic, coolest masks in goaltending history, with that San Jose Sharks gigantic shark biting his face, kind of such a great mask. Lots more to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
tapped across as the rink-wide pass intended for Bouchard, intercepted. And Marchand comes the other way on a break and scores. He beat two different defenders and then beat Cal Pickard. It's 3-0 Panthers.
This is just an incredible goal by Brad Marchand. And that puck was one of those 50-50 pucks in the neutral zone. And then Corey Perry could not overpower Marchand down low. Somehow he slips it right through the legs of Cal Pickard. What an unbelievable individual effort from Marchand.
Brad Marchand has played some of the best hockey of his career in this Stanley Cup final. That highlight courtesy of Sports USA. John Allers, Brian Hayward on the call. Brian just joined us on the show. Florida leads the series 3-2. Game 6 tomorrow night. We have it for you on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Your home of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. James Peterson, what would you put on your hockey mask? You get to select your own motif, your own decor.
Yeah.
It's the last place besides your own skin. You can get tattoos, whatever you want, but it's the last piece of a uniform in pro sports that you really can you get full artistic expression.
Now, I think I do the way that a lot of goaltenders do. It depends on the team they're on. I think I would go that way, and I'm thinking like Boston Bruins. Now they have the B logo, but a Bruin is a bear.
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool. If I was the Bruins goalie, could have a cool Bruin bear type thing on
yeah. Cool.
On the mask. Yeah. So I think it would depend on the team. And that's one I think that I haven't seen that, because I think that the Bruins goaltenders go with mostly the B logo. I'd probably lean into what an actual Bruin is and have a nice bear on there.
So I don't know what Veggie's going to do moving forward. He had the really cool, basically Jurassic Park.
He needs to have a head of broccoli somewhere in there because of the broccoli head guy. Shout out to Broccoli Head, the fan who wears the broccoli head on there in honor of Veggie. He's got to have head of broccoli on there somewhere.
This past season, especially, he became the full-time starter. I loved it every time seeing effectively it was a Jurassic Park themed mask. I'm a big dinosaur guy, as I've made clear on the show many times. And it was a well-executed paint job as far as you could tell. I would pay a pretty penny for that game-worn, actually used goalie mask. Put that here in the studio.
Oh, absolutely.
If anyone knows how I can get access to that thing. Now, moving forward, does he keep the dinosaurs or does he go with the mammoth? Because it's prehistoric life. Now you have a team. You're the mammoth. And are you going with like a photorealistic depiction of a mammoth, or are you going with more of the logo with the mammoth? I mean, these are tough decisions that goalies have to make, but it would be really cool.
He needs to have a mammoth chomping on a head of broccoli.
I don't know that mammoth.
I know it doesn't make any actual sense with the mammoth, but he's got to have
Okay,
we got to have broccoli part of it because of his nickname.
You're the mammoth goalie. You're the goalkeeper for the mammoth. Okay, you have to have a fully custom, fully unique paint job on your mask. No one calls you James the broccoli guy, so you can't have broccoli on yours.
Yeah, we don't have a special.
What are you going with? You could do anything you want, James.
I'd go maybe a mammoth skull.
Ooh,
with the tusks, with the long tusks.
All right. So are you doing like team colors, or are you doing like bone colored?
I'm doing team colors because I do love the light blue.
All right. 877-353-0700. Describe your goalie mask motif.
Yeah, if they had different colors, they had different team colors that I wasn't so psyched about, I might do something different, maybe a red. But since they have the light blue, which I've always loved the light blue, Carolina blue, I think it would I would definitely use that as a background color.
Here's what I'm doing, okay? As an homage, as a little nod to the names that did not quite make it through, I'm going with a mammoth and also throwing a Yeti in there somewhere. Like, I don't know, somebody depict some blizzard situation and maybe a mammoth fighting a Yeti on my helmet, with the mammoth clearly about to win.
Mammoth fighting a Yeti, yes.
You know what I mean? Just a little shout to the
Is that
logo.
Is that an every season thing or just the first season was the mammoth thing?
I'm going a season at a time.
Okay.
All right? Because the other thing about it.
Because they do that, right? The goaltenders get custom
they'll
paint
switch
jobs
them up.
about year in, year out, right? If not a couple times a year, I'm sure.
They'll switch them up. Ingram, I think, had like a Cars theme, and he had kind of a neutral one, if I'm not mistaken.
The Cars theme's fun.
And look, if you have kids and your kids are like if I left it up to my daughters, my mask would end up looking crazy. They have a very broad range of interests. But
have a corner for each of your daughters.
It'd be kind of cool too, right? Like a little jigsaw puzzle of the stuff your kids like.
Lots
so
of
every time your family tunes in, your kids are like, "Oh, my dad has that on his mask."
Yeah, that's for
because of
me. Yeah, a lot of pink in there. If it were up to your daughters, would there be? Are they
only
into
one
pink?
only one of them's like super pink obsessed.
Okay.
One's 18 months old. She doesn't know what colors are yet. Okay. The 6-year-old is all over the place with her interests, and then the middle child she's very consistent. She loves really girly stuff. She loves the color pink. She loves fancy things. She likes to wear dresses. Yeah. She carries a purse everywhere. Like, what do you have in that purse?
So in the neighborhood, there's a food truck night every week.
That sounds awesome.
Monday nights, actually. Might head over there again tonight. And went there last week. First little outing with the new boy.
Yeah.
And didn't stay out too long. It's summer, so you got to be wary of getting too hot and stuff. So
you got to worry about them getting too hot, too cold, dehydrated, too hydrated.
Stayed in the shade. It wasn't out there long enough to order the food. Then we went home, and while there was a little girl holding a very realistic looking baby doll.
Okay,
and I'm like, for a second, in this like newborn dad mode, I'm like, and mom's standing right next to her. How is mom letting her hold the baby like that? And then I'm like, oh, that is just that's a doll. Of course it's a doll. But that's what comes to mind when you tell me about your middle child who into girly stuff and even like things that are not, you wouldn't expect a little girl to have like a purse. Like this girl had like a very realistic looking baby doll.
Man, it's wild. Even when like starting about age 2, they start to really have strong opinions sometimes about how their hair should be done, what they want to be wearing. It's wild. So if I had a goalie mask, I'm sure they would have opinions on that. How excited are you for the return of Shohei Ohtani to the mound?
This is
first time since 2023. Ohtani's going to be pitching tonight.
Yeah, this is a big deal. And it's one of those rich getting richer situations because you talk about Shohei Ohtani being the best player in baseball last year and a big reason why they won the Dodgers won the World Series. Well, he was only doing half of the stuff he's good at when he did that, right? So now he's going to return to the mound. I think this is a big deal for the Dodgers. You also think back to last year, they had to, for the at least one game of each series, they had to use an opener and have a bullpen game. If Ohtani is healthy throughout the rest of this season as a pitcher and is able to pitch in the postseason, they may not have to have bullpen games, OC. Like which is unheard of in today's Major League Baseball. You have at least one, every team has at least one bullpen game each series to rest their starters. They may have the luxury of going, yeah, we'll do that this series, but we don't have to do that next series kind of thing because they just added another starter in the middle of the season.
Pretty incredible. Shohei Ohtani, the thing I'm most curious about, when you've got someone who's good at everything, right? Are they truly masters of all of it? So does returning to the mound compromise his plate performance in any way? Does he end up being like just okay as a pitcher but stays consistent offensively?
Is he able to compartmentalize, or is his focus split too much?
I mean, look, at the end, he's good enough at both positions. Is he going to be MVP caliber at both positions? That's what the expectation is. He's supposed to be the best player in baseball. So his version of that is being an all-star caliber pitcher. Maybe not MVP, maybe not Cy Young, but an all-star caliber pitcher, and, of course, an all-star caliber offensive player hitter.
Yeah, he was looking at the ESPN article by Jeff Passan talking about this, or I believe it's just Jeff Passan. Maybe it was one of their other, maybe it was a Dodger writer. Anyway, an ESPN article it talked about his best stretch as a pitcher was he was able to pitch 2 years in a row, 2021 to 2023. I guess 2.5 years there to 2023. Sub-3 ERA, 2.8 ERA, over 500 strikeouts, just 143 walks, and over almost 430 innings. Like those are really good numbers for a guy that's kind of secondary for him.
Were you listening the other day when we talked about because you're a big jersey guy?
Yes.
When we talked about the jersey sales in the NFL?
No, I missed that. I thought you were gonna refer to the guy who switched jerseys during the hockey game.
I was gonna leave that. I was gonna leave that to you because you texted it to me as a grievance.
Yeah, stay tuned on Friday, folks.
Yeah. So Olivia was. By the way, it's actually wonderful to have someone to have someone produce a sports talk show who's not a sports fan. It creates a really silly dynamic.
Did you have a good time with that?
I did. I was like, if you were going to buy an NFL jersey, whose jersey would you buy? This was all in response to a new article that came out. And she was just like, do I know one single NFL player?
I mean, she knows some former Utes.
She chose Travis Kelce for the Taylor Swift connection,
of course.
ultimately. So
Taylor's boyfriend, I'd get his jersey.
If I were to ask you, James Peterson, who topped the NFL last year, according to the NFLPA, who topped the NFL in merchandise sales? So jerseys, jerseys, bobblehead dolls, etc. Which player was the biggest star merchandise sales-wise?
Okay, so if I'm thinking of it as a sports fan, I'd guess Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. But knowing the broad appeal beyond sports that Travis Kelce has gained because he's Taylor Swift's boyfriend, I'm going to guess Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce.
I thought he would be he was 11 on the
list.
11. He was 11th. I was like, what?
Taylor Swifties they know about him, but they're not buying his merchandise.
T-Swift is not as powerful as I thought. I thought that she would immediately skyrocket him to number one.
Okay, so since you eliminated him, I'm going to say Lamar Jackson.
It's Saquon Barkley.
Saquon
supplanted Patrick Mahomes as the top merchandise seller in the NFL. So, as a jersey guy, you now have to get a Saquon Barkley jersey.
Is that the requirement now? I have to buy every top-selling jersey, every sport?
Yes.
Okay.
So, your Cooper Flag Dallas Mavericks jersey
oh boy,
is going to be
it's going to play really well here.
You're going to be so mad. You'll be so bothered by that. Because
what's he doing with a Cooper Flag jersey?
Yeah, why
never listening again.
Why are you wearing that? You should have been a jazz man.
I can just hear the cranky texters chiming in now.
Yes.
Shout out to you guys. 877-353-0700.
So, yeah, anyway, a little potpourri there.
Speaking of merch, that might be a T-shirt idea. I'm a cranky texter on the Sean O'Connell Show.
There's really only like 4 who deserve the honor.
Or anyone who buys the merch when we eventually make it and sell it.
I don't know if we want to like incentivize being a cranky texter.
That's good.
Because when it's just a few people, it's easy to just let it roll off your back. You're like, oh, whatever.
It's everybody.
That's just grumpy. If everyone is just like, you stink.
Just to get the title of cranky texter.
Just so that it's actually, conducive to them wearing the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to incentivize people talking trash. I'm too sensitive. I'm a sensitive soul, so I seem thick-skinned.
Don't worry.
In that movie.
Come on. Sensitive soul. It's Lion King. Of course. Yes.
All right. I thought you were going to.
I'm like, well, holy crap! Why can't I think?
Okay.
Shout out to Pumbaa.
Great character. Great character. Also, people don't appreciate that actor, whatever his name is. He was in the NyQuil commercials of the 90s.
Was he really?
Yeah. He was always like the actually both of them were Nathan Lane and Pumbaa, whoever played Pumbaa's voice. just like a chubby guy. He looks just like Pumbaa in real life.
Ernie Sabella?
Yeah, sounds right. Both of them were in NyQuil commercials. Stuffy, runny
I
nose.
had no idea.
Yeah. Who knew? All right.
Shout out to the Timon and Pumbaa TV show too, by the way, the cartoon TV show.
Never saw it.
Oh, it was a staple for me growing up.
All right, we'll take a quick one here. We'll come back with a little crosstalk. Close out the show. Spence Checketts. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Hello. All right, turning it over to Spence Checketts in the drive here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Spence, how are you? I'm good, man. We got to turn on Spence's mic.
Hello, Sean. Can you hear me? Is my microphone on?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right, good. Hi. I'm well. How are you?
Great.
Good. Good weekend.
Have a great weekend?
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day, belated.
To you as well. Anything exciting, special?
I got some cool stuff made by my daughters from pipe cleaners. I love that.
Okay.
Little arts and crafts
Lovely.
time for them. It was great.
Yeah.
It's the cutest thing ever when they're just like, I made you these glasses, and you put them on and they poke your eyes. It's great.
Do you keep all of those things?
Of course.
See, my son's about to turn 24.
Yeah.
And I have a box of literally everything that he ever made me, any picture he ever drew for me, even the ones when they're like 2 and it's like, oh, that's really sucks.
It's just scribbles.
Just like 2 lines, Yeah, keep all those because as they age, it's like the one thing you'll have to remind you of what it's like now. Because I'm telling you, man, I know everybody says this. You're going to blink, and they're all going to be out of the house.
I don't. That was rude of you to
enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah. No, I do enjoy it. It's great. I love.
Good.
We're in the thick of it, I know, but I love this part of life. It's so great to have them actually love you and need you. So yeah, and now it's just 3 dads here.
That's right.
James had his first Father's Day.
That's right, James. Happy Father's Day to you. How was your first Father's Day experience?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah,
how's the little man?
My present was his presents apparently.
Yes.
So he's awesome.
Good.
Told a bit of the birth story earlier. He's just a little guy, and just over 4 pounds when he was born. Now we're saying he's 5.
The official stance of the show is that he's a 5-pounder.
Good. He was just about 5 pounds at the last pediatrician appointment. So we're saying he's 5.
Was he early?
He was about 3.5 weeks early. Yeah.
My son was exactly 3.5.
Really?
Yeah, and he was just over 5 pounds.
Okay.
And yeah, totally healthy.
Big guy.
Yeah, just ready to roll. I mean, I was concerned, and the doc was like, "No, he's, he'll gain weight, but he was ready to come out, ready to roll."
Yeah. So I also hate what you just said about you blink and kids are out of the house.
Yeah, I'm telling
Spence,
you,
you've offended both of us.
Enjoy it. I'm just telling you guys to enjoy it. I'll be the old guy that reminds you guys to enjoy it with the one son who's out of the house. Man, it sucks because when they age and they leave, all you do is think about all the times you wish you would have had with them when they were younger. It's a wild thing, man.
Okay.
So enjoy the fact that you have it now.
All right.
Hang in there. It's okay. Hey, you have it now.
Yeah, I do.
Be blessed that you have it now. That's your takeaway.
Yes. All right. We're playing start, bench, cut.
Okay.
Kickers. All-time great kickers in Utah football history.
Okay.
You can start one, bench one, cut one.
I think I saw a tweet of yours about this, but wasn't that last week?
We did punters last week, and we're doing kickers now, and we're going to get to every position as we go through the summer because summertime radio.
Oh, you are good, man. You're good at this.
Start, bench, cut.
Okay.
Louis Sakota,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Phillips,
Mm-hmm.
Matt Gay.
I'm going to cut Louis because he hit on my girlfriend once. Louis cut. Let's see. I'll bench Andy respectfully because I love the kid, and I'll start Matt.
Yeah,
but I'm cutting Louis. Louis got to go.
Louis, you hound dog.
No, I remember she was like, yeah, this Utah football player came up to me and asked for my number. I was like, oh, which one? Praying it wasn't like a middle linebacker or something. She's like, oh, it was Louis Sakota.
Please not be Christian Cox. Please say it's not.
Exactly. Please say it was the kicker. And it was. I'm like, all right, it's barely a football player that hit on you. But he did try to get her number once.
Oh, all right. That's very funny. I love that. Yeah, so we'll keep doing these. And once we get past the specialists, I'm not going to do long snappers, all right? Spoiler.
Okay, thank you for that.
Spoiler, we're not gonna put people through the torture of having to cut their favorite long snapper.
That would have been a tough
one.
History. Yeah, if you could even get 3 of them. They're deep in the archives.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll start splitting off now. There's a little bit more depth, right? Pre-Power 5 and Pac-12, Big 12 era. So you're gonna have to choose though.
I'll be ready every day.
They're all gonna be great.
I don't know that any of the other options have ever tried to hit on a girlfriend of mine, so I think we'll be safe.
Well, you never know.
You do never know.
You just
lesson learned for sure. You never know.
What's coming up on the drive?
Well, massive trade in the NBA yesterday, and Brian Windhorst himself says he's told the Jazz are trying to get involved in some of these transactions. I think a lot of teams simply have done the calculation on who Oklahoma City is and who they're going to be for a long, long time. Like, to me, I view what Memphis did as they punted on the next few years. So will the Jazz try to get in the mix to get better, or are they going to wait it out like everybody else will with OKC? Of course, Game 5 of the finals tonight. We got Smitty live in studio. We'll do some hockey, of course, with the draft. Obviously, NBA draft coming up too. So, U.S. Open, man, that was wild. J.J. Spawn gets his first major. So we'll jump around. We'll do a little bit of everything.
Hopefully, he gets an energy drink sponsor and a CVS sponsorship out of that story.
For sure.
Let's go, JJ.
Agreed.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud part of Utah's ESPN.